One win away for the Lady Gamecocks to punch their ticket to another national championship appearance. Can Dawn Staley and the Lady Gamecocks do it tonight? Right after the program is over, right after Wire to Wire is over, that game will be kicking off. NC State and South Carolina. Wolfpack 31-6, the Gamecocks 36-0. Let us know what you think about this game. Let us know what you think about the spread. That's something that we'll get to. Gamecocks by Vegas are favored by 11.5 points. Seems really high to me, but I guess Vegas thinks South Carolina is the much better team. Get your thoughts in on that. 71307. The Renewal by Anderson phone lines are open as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. Diesel, a ton to get to in this segment. I cannot wait. This should be a really good game, and I think we can start with the conversation that you and I had this past week after South Carolina's last game. The last two games South Carolina played, they obviously won, but they did not look the same. They did not play up to their potential.
Didn't look like themselves.
They didn't. So I guess that's where we can start with this segment, because that is the most interesting point to me going into tonight's game is, will they look like themselves again? If South Carolina wins tonight, Diesel, and doesn't look like themselves, will there be more concern on your part to you with a matchup potentially against Iowa looming?
Yeah, there should be. South Carolina, to this point, has not faced a team that out-talents them, that has, a star like Caitlin Clark or enough semi-stars that can collectively beat them. And I still don't think they're going to be facing a team like that tonight, an NC State 3 seed, NC State 31-6 on the season. But if they have to squeak through again tonight, and they've got to face, assuming they win, Caitlin Clark in the finals, man, they're in for a rude awakening. This is not going to be pretty for South Carolina if they can't get back to the type of basketball that they've played all season long.
Sure, and I think that the spread is very interesting because 11.5 is a lot of points, but South Carolina, when they're on, as we talked about, they're definitely capable of covering 11.5. Now, what I think is interesting here is to play the other side, looking at it from a standpoint of why can NC State cover, Diesel? Well, I did some research, and if you tell me that NC State can cover tonight, can cover the 11.5, maybe a 8 to 10 point game, 5 Wolfpack players are averaging 10 or more points per game, led by junior guard Isaiah James. She had 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists in the win over Texas on Sunday. Very impressive outing for her. And then she's also started all 37 games for NC State. Junior guard Sanaya Rivers is reaching double-doubles almost every game. The former Gamecock, who is having a really good season. They have a lot of players who are really playing good team ball. As far as Rivers goes, in 34 games, all starts, she's averaging 12.5 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. So North Carolina State, what we have to remember, Diesel, is they made it to the Final Four.
Yeah.
They're a very good team. However, even though South Carolina has not played up to their potential in the last few games, NC State, in my opinion, even though South Carolina hasn't been themselves, NC State's still the lesser team here, and it's very obvious. I will say this, Diesel. I actually think South Carolina covers tonight. I actually think they win by 11.5 or more. Obviously, for them to cover, they have to win by 12 or more. But I like the Gamecocks tonight for whatever reason. With 2 games where things kind of got hairy and kind of got close. You and I obviously watched one of those as we were still on air. I think South Carolina tonight comes out with a laser focus and knows the task at hand. Great teams always have that extra gear, that extra level, and I think South Carolina tonight will have that.
We need to find out from Gamecock fans, what's your level of concern going into this Final Four, going into this game against NC State? Now, you can't look past NC State. So think about only this NC State game. What is your level of concern knowing the way that South Carolina has looked the last 2 games out, where they had big leads. They gave it up for whatever reason. 1 is not concerned at all. 10 is very concerned. It's okay to admit that you're concerned. Okay?
Sure.
It's okay to say, hey, you know what, guys? Maybe this is who we are in this tournament run. I would love to hear from you Gamecock fans. So text in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You could jump on the stream across any of the platforms that we're currently live streaming on, which includes Facebook, YouTube, and X, across multiple different places that you can find that, at the Cole Bryson on X, at Diesel on Radio on X, at the Fan Upstate on X. We're on all of those right now.
We're everywhere, man.
Yeah, jump in there and give us a number. Give us a number as to how concerned you are taking on NC State. And this is going to be Dawn Staley's coaching job right here. I mean, I'm not saying like her job is, I'm just saying, yeah, this is her job to coach this team up and get them back to the type of ball that they play. Like when you're a team who is used to handling everybody easily and you get punched in the mouth, it may take you a little time to figure it out and figure out what the actual problem is. And that's what we're going to find out in this game.
One texter says one of the NC State players transferred from South Carolina. As I mentioned, also another layer to it there. Absolutely. Maybe a little added revenge.
Could this be the second ex-Gamecock to beat a South Carolina team the way Jermaine Cousinard put up 40 on South Carolina in that first round?
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Spur Daddy, I like this now. This is what I'm talking about. The confidence right here on game day confidence. It's Friday. You wake up. It's game day. Maybe it's a little homerism, but you're ready tonight. Spur Daddy says level 2 concern out of 10 tonight about NC State. But you know what, though? Like, as crazy as that does sound, if they're playing their game, then Spur Daddy's probably accurate. If they're playing their game. Here's some numbers for you. South Carolina tonight versus NC State against the spread. South Carolina favored by 11.5. As I said, South Carolina over-under tonight is 139.5. So when you look at the over-under, if you're going to round it up to 140, they're expecting each team to be about 70. I honestly like the under here. I think Cardoso and South Carolina's defense will be really, really impactful against NC State. And I don't know that both teams are scoring 70 tonight. I could be wrong, but I like the under.
No, when you look at the way these teams are trending at the moment, South Carolina over their last 4 games have trended down in scoring. They scored 91 against Presbyterian. I get it, lower level of competition.
Lot lower.
Scored 88 against North Carolina, 79 against Indiana, and 70 against Oregon State. Whereas NC State over their last 4 games, they only put up 64 against Chattanooga in the first round of the tournament, but then scored 79, 77, and 76. So they've been very consistent against power competition, against Texas, Stanford, and Tennessee.
The Wolfpack are 9-3 against Associated Press ranked teams this season. Not bad. 9-3 against ranked teams. South Carolina 7-0 on neutral courts this season. South Carolina, it doesn't really matter where they play. Obviously, it helps if they're at home, but I do think that South Carolina, we asked Dawn Staley about it. I think South Carolina will have a good amount of support there tonight. I really do. Cleveland, not the best destination to go and take the family to, probably, but
hello, Cleveland.
Yeah, it's
Cleveland.
I think there will be a good turnout. I really do. It's not terribly far of a drive. I mean, it's a lot better to fly, but maybe 6 or 7 hours to Cleveland.
Yeah, why are the men getting all these great destinations?
Yeah.
They're playing in Dallas. They were playing in LA. They're playing in Arizona. Meanwhile, the ladies are going to Albany, where they can't even figure out how to paint the lines on the court, and Cleveland.
Yeah, that's rough.
Hey, what's up with that? Take them to some good. I'm not bagging on Cleveland. Like, I've only driven around Cleveland once, so I personally don't know a lot about Cleveland, but they get a bad rep. Okay, I mean. And sometimes stereotypes exist for a reason.
What would happen? And I do not want this to happen, but I'm going to spin this a different way. What would happen if women's college basketball Diesel did not get the matchup we all want? What would happen if it were Iowa versus NC State?
So we saw a 12.3 rating in the Iowa LSU game, which was massive. Which was absolutely freaking massive.
Sure.
What would happen if the matchup was NC State versus UConn. I mean, I think UConn commands a fair amount of viewership. Anyway,
Yeah, it'd be a lot less
UConn,
though.
but it would be a lot less. Iowa's going to command the most. If we were going to rank these as far as what kind of audience they could command, I think it's Iowa 1, South Carolina, and UConn maybe a 2A, 2B situation.
Sure.
And then NC State is a 3 or a 4. But man, if this thing does not end up with Iowa, South Carolina, if chaos ensues and it's NC State, UConn, we're going to see that.
That'd be
rough.
rough.
See that viewership drop way off. And then we're going to know. Has women's college basketball really arrived? Or were people just riding the wave of all this media hype? We talked about it earlier in the week.
Sure.
With everybody talking about the women's tournament. I mean, news outlets that otherwise would not touch women's college basketball are talking about it. And they're not talking about it because it's great X's and O's, right? They're not talking about the feats of athleticism, outside of Caitlin Clark and the records that she's setting. Everybody's just saying, wow, isn't it great how much coverage there is? Like, it's like an echo chamber. Well, this site's talking about the coverage, and then they're talking about the coverage, and then they're talking about the coverage, but nobody's actually talking about the games.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to find out if it's not the South Carolina-Iowa matchup that we all want in the finals. Like, really, how much has the game grown?
I'll tell you this.
I think the floor has been raised for women's college basketball, but there's a big gap between the floor and the ceiling.
It would not be good for the sport. I'll tell you that right now. It would not be good at all for the sport. Let us know. Continue to get your thoughts in on what you think tonight, what your level of concern is. A couple of good texts from our Tolos. That stands for turn it on, leave it on. One texter says about a 4 of concern tonight, but I agree with you that they don't look like the team we're used to seeing all season. If they can't guard the 3, that could be an issue. Another Tolo, I hope every girl Gamecock player gets the runs at tip-off. Wow, it must be a Clemson fan, you think? Speaking of Clemson fan, Roger says on the stream, as a Clemson fan, I will be pulling for State.
I think you Clemson fans should be pulling for South Carolina. You should be pulling for another title to come to this state because we saw earlier this week, the news was that Clemson had hired a new women's basketball coach. I mean, everything matters in this rivalry, right?
Diesel, did you just say that?
Clemson has a new basketball coach, and as such, the pressure needs to be on this guy. What was his name again?
Sean Poppy.
Sean Poppy. The pressure needs to be on Sean Poppy to go out there and get it done and compete at a somewhat relatively similar level. I mean, we've got so much elite college basketball in this area. Anyway, North Carolina is always elite. South Carolina is elite. It's time to add another one. Okay, it's time for Clemson fans and the Clemson administration to take women's basketball seriously. And the fact that Dawn Staley is winning titles an hour and a half down the road in Columbia is a good thing for Clemson.
I want to ask this question.
No, y'all will never admit it.
They'll never admit it. No. But I do want to ask the audience, is it okay for Clemson fans, South Carolina opinions, Clemson opinions, neither opinions, will take all opinions. Is it okay for Clemson fans to pull for South Carolina in women's basketball? Is it okay? Final 4, they're the only team left. Your basketball team in women's basketball is irrelevant, as we talked about the other day on the program. They are irrelevant. Talking about Clemson, is it okay for Clemson fans to pull for Dawn Staley and the Lady Gamecocks?
I think
let us know.
This needs to be a Twitter poll because on Twitter, you can essentially vote anonymously.
Let's do it.
People on the text line, people especially on the chat, on the stream, your name is out there, and a lot of Clemson fans would never admit that openly.
That's a good point.
But in an anonymous forum of Twitter votes, we can't see which way individual people voted. I think we might get a more realistic answer.
Let's get this going right here, right now. 844 fan phone. That's 844-326-3663. One more time. I'll say it slower. I'm told I say it fast too sometimes. 844-326-3663 is the number you can call in on the Renewal by Anderson phone line. You can text the show 71307. Diesel is putting up a poll on Twitter. Let us know. With tonight's big game, South Carolina, Dawn Staley, Final 4. Is it okay for Clemson fans to pull for the Gamecocks? Diesel, you say?
I say yeah. I say it's absolutely good
Wire,
for
what's your name?
basketball in the state of South Carolina to have another title here. But I'm not
What's
sure
your
a
name?
whole lot of Clemson fans are going to be willing to admit it. That's going to be the sticking point.
Hello.
But then again, we put this
Hello.
up as essentially an anonymous poll. We may get a real answer.
You don't think people will be honest about it?
No, I don't.
You don't think Clemson fans and South Carolina fans will put their name on something and be honest about it? By the way, caller, we lost you. We just had a caller, and feel free to give us a buzz back. You might be right on that, Diesel. You might be right. They might not want to put their names on it. One texter, if you're fan enough and man enough, you can suck it up sometimes for the good of the cause. I have a soft spot for Clemson because I have a cousin and a niece who go there. It's hard to do, but if anyone can do it, I can. If I can do it, anyone can, says the texter. Trey says it's better for Clemson to pull for South Carolina rather than pulling for North Carolina during basketball season.
Right? It's only going to make things harder for you in your conference if NC State's winning titles, if Duke's winning titles, if North Carolina's winning titles. It's going to make things harder for you.
I don't think there is may get pushback, but I'm going to agree with you, Diesel. I don't think there's anything wrong with pulling for Don Staley and the Gamecocks from a Clemson perspective.
So we've got a poll up right now. You got three choices.
Okay.
Openly, yes, I'm pulling for South Carolina. Secretly, yes, I'm pulling for South Carolina, or absolutely not. Absolutely not. Under no circumstances would you ever pull for South Carolina to win at anything.
That's rough. That's rough,
So
man.
go jump on the fan upstate on Twitter.
We'll make this
that poll.
We'll make this the show question going forward, and we'll come back to it at different times during the program. Continue to get your thoughts in. It is very interesting. I think it's okay. Diesel and I both think that it's okay for Clemson to pull for South Carolina tonight. Now, I will say this before we hit a break, because we've got a very good guest coming up in the next segment. If you like racing or NASCAR or it just a little bit, have a little bit of interest in it, we ask you to stick around for this interview because it's going to be very good coming up in the next segment. If you don't like NASCAR, stick around anyways. You may start liking it because of this interview. But if Clemson really had a good women's basketball program and there was a little bit of a rivalry, maybe I'd say no. However, Clemson basketball on the women's side is irrelevant.
When was the last time, and I'm going to Google this, but I want to see if any of the audience members know, when was the last time Clemson women's basketball beat South Carolina women's basketball?
14 BC. No, you know what? I have no idea. It's got to be Diesel. I'll say 10 plus.
Do you know what the score was this year?
It was not. Yeah, no, it was 45 to
109 to 40.
Okay, so 50 something, 60 something points.
69 points.
Oh my word. Oh my word. One message on the stream says, if I was a Clemmy fan, I wouldn't cheer for my rival and nothing. I wouldn't cheer for Clemmy if they were there. Thanks for that, Spur Daddy. And DB on the stream says, say what now? NASCAR on the Fan Upstate. Listen, Diesel and I on this program are not only going to talk about what you want to talk about right here, right now, but we're also going to make sure that you are up to date on all things sports. Diesel, we're talking baseball. We're talking NASCAR. We're doing it all right here, man.
The answer is 2009. 2009 was the last time Clemson beat South Carolina in women's basketball. The score of that game was 94-92.
Wow.
When Dawn Staley took the job at South Carolina, Clemson held the series lead 32-21. And now the record is 34-33.
Ooh.
Yeesh.
Been a long time.
South Carolina's been spanking that ass for a decade or more at this point. Whew. That's right. So we're going to head off to break here. I have a great interview coming up next with Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer talking NASCAR. We are Wire to Wire. I'm Diesel. He's Cole Bryson, and you are listening to The Fan Upstate.
Get your thoughts in now. If you have questions about the upcoming race Sunday at Martinsville, let us know your thoughts, questions, concerns, whatever it may be. 71307. Start your text with the word fan, and away you go. We now bring in Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer to talk about Sunday's race and get us caught up on NASCAR, as we are almost 10 games in. Diesel pointed out during the break. Shane, thanks so much for coming on today. Want to start with this. Even though Martinsville is Sunday, I think the most interesting news is what happened with the Denny Hamlin restart over the weekend last week. His crew chief has now spoken out on it. And I want to ask you, every time there's drama in NASCAR, does it have to involve Denny Hamlin?
Thank you guys so much for having me. Great to be here. And yes, it really does seem like Denny Hamlin, if something happens, he finds himself at the center of it, even if it's not related to the racetrack, and even if it's related to a middle of the night beef that transpired at about 1 a.m. this morning involving Denny Hamlin. So it seems like you're right. Anything involving any kind of controversy often does involve Hamlin. And in the case of the restart, let's go to that about the end of that Richmond race. Denny Hamlin, always strong at Richmond, all those things. But listen, that race, Martin Truex Jr. was dominating. And then toward the end, getting toward an overtime restart, Hamlin was the leader and did kind of get out in front, did seem to jump that restart. But either way, NASCAR reviewed it. And ultimately, there's been, obviously, like you said, a lot of controversy. But still, in the end, Hamlin, a winner for the second time this year, and still chasing that first championship, and clearly, no matter what, one of the strongest drivers in the Cup Series.
Shane, I'm a little bit in the dark here. Could you bring us into this beef? What's going on here with Denny Hamlin?
Yeah. So basically, what went on last night was that Marcus Smith, who is the CEO of Speedway Motorsports, which is a company that manages a lot of racetracks, including North Wilkesboro up in North Carolina, and essentially, and that's Bruton Smith, obviously the Hall of Famer's son. And so it started when they showed a picture on an account of clearly showing sections of a recently repaved track at Sonoma. That's out in California. But the idea was that, okay, we just did this repaving, and then you see that clearly parts of the track coming up in a picture immediately. And Hamlin put a tweet out there saying, when paving on a budget goes wrong, NWB, meaning North Wilkesboro, will be next. And Smith fired back right away and said, this is a great post from somebody who doesn't know all the information, ignorance on display for the world to see. And then eventually they go back and forth. Hamlin eventually says, we've seen your reconfig, referring to reconfiguration record. And it all ended up, the biggest, punchline, I guess, Denny Hamlin eventually goes, here's your tip. Let someone else run your business before you blow everything your dad gave you, referring to his father, Bruton Smith. And so this morning, Marcus Smith, again, CEO of Speedway Motorsports, deleted all of his replies that were sending social media ablaze at about 1 a.m. today in the NASCAR community. And a lot of the NASCAR community woke up to see that. And then Marcus Smith deleted his replies. And then eventually this morning, he posted to follow up on his previous post. He, didn't want, got first deleted. He's noted even last night, how passionate and how successful and, championship hopeful the driver Denny Hamlin is, and hoping to fix the pavement issues and whatever. So, usual kind of beef back and forth, but that was not what you never know. Sometimes it'll be someone throwing a bumper on the back of a car, and sometimes it'll be, a middle of the night Twitter exchange, but that's what's going on. And yes, a lot of these things involve Denny Hamlin.
So we saw a multimillionaire tuck his tail between his legs. Is that what you're telling me?
What it seems like.
Shane, I want to ask you, will there be a vendetta against Denny Hamlin until he does win it all, until he does win a Cup championship? Will the beef then go away?
I think that is a big part of it right now, that he doesn't have a championship. But at the same time, something I've noticed is that Denny Hamlin, as a result of his personality and who he is an incredibly popular and known driver. And I think in a lot of ways is actually more recognizable than so many of the other drivers in the Cup throughout the Cup Series, and really stands out among the top drivers because he's this, and they call him the villain. He just has a role that is so unique. And I feel like, again, the fact that he hasn't won a championship plays into it. But when he does, if he does, could in the next year or two, he's already 43, could get that elusive championship, I think that could really solidify him as an all-time great driver, because then he has 53, at that point, pushing 60 wins. He's been around for as long as any of the top guys have been around, has won as many races, has won at different tracks. And at that point, I think when he wins that championship, he goes from being somebody who's, regarded as a villain, regarded as, oh, maybe there's controversy, to, wow, this is somebody who had such an impact on the sport.
Shane Connuck, he covers NASCAR for the Charlotte Observer, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Shane, I'm going to tell you a little story about myself. I grew up in Hickory, North Carolina, about an hour and a half northwest of Charlotte. I grew up going every single Saturday night to Hickory Motor Speedway. It was called the birthplace of the NASCAR stars. They painted it right there on the wall. And so I grew up going every May and every October, camping out in the infield at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But largely NASCAR as a sport has lost me over the past 20 years of my life. What is NASCAR doing to get guys like me back who maybe I'm going to tell you, I have a big problem with all the changes that the sport has undergone over the past 20, 25 years or so. Does NASCAR feel like they need to do anything to get guys like me back? Or is it on me? Is this a me problem? Do I have to reinvest my time and interest back into the sport?
It's a really good point you bring up, and it's something that I really personally think a lot about. And just kind of real quick, me personally, I started covering NASCAR in about August for the Charlotte Observer, and I have been an all-around huge sports fan, and I've known NASCAR generally my whole life, because I've always really made an effort to follow different sports and just know what's going on as a sports fan and sports eventually journalist. And something that I noticed really coming in, really being immersed in this NASCAR community right away so much, and really looking toward the future of the sport, is that the sport really has, like you said, changed tremendously in the last 20 years or so, 20, 25 years. And as we look toward the future of the sport, I do think that there have been a lot of growing pains over the last 20 years or so. And so that being said, there was an era when you had fewer drivers, you had the sport seemed bigger, you had fewer winners, you had more crashes maybe. And now it feels like there's a lot more parity. And I feel like it actually is, as I noticed, being also a fan and a journalist who covers a lot of different sports, that it's actually in a lot of ways mirroring the same trends that we've seen the NBA evolve in. And, the NBA at one point was more that you had fewer teams, and more teams would win more championships, and certain teams would win a lot of championships, and certain teams would just always be, a top team. And now we see that in the NBA, you have individual talents who people follow individual players and don't even know what team they're on. And a lot of people don't even watch it till the playoffs, or people watch highlights, and the game evolves. And so I think NASCAR is that same way, that now, instead of having, you don't have that one superstar that everybody looks toward. But I noticed that if you really follow the sport, you actually have way more drivers who have aspects of being a superstar. You have way more drivers who have aspects of being, you could hate them. You have more drivers who have things that you can relate to. And NASCAR has done a great job, I think, really now embracing a lot of the social media and stuff. And something that NASCAR did this past year, had a Netflix series called NASCAR Full Speed that is 5 episodes. Each one's about an hour long on Netflix. I highly recommend it. I'd say if you're a NASCAR fan, I highly recommend it, because drivers themselves saying they learn things about each other that they didn't even know about each other because of how well this Netflix series portrayed them. If you aren't a NASCAR fan, I would recommend it just as much, because the whole point of shows like that and doing things like that is to bring more people to the sport. And my personal takeaway about it was great. But my biggest reason why it was great is because being somebody who covers the sport, who these people are. The point of it isn't to make a hilarious, made-for-TV, Netflix dramatic series. The point of it is the drama is that they're fighting for a championship and that Ryan Blaney ends up winning that championship. And the characters who build that storyline are 7 or 8 of the most, not necessarily prominent, but the most, younger guys in the Cup Series you could really look to. For example, Kyle Busch, very known name. If you're an older racing fan, you're probably familiar with him. If you're not a racing fan, you probably know who Kyle Busch is.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't feature Kyle Busch in the Netflix series that much because you know who Kyle Busch is, or you know a little bit about him, but they'd rather you kind of get to know Christopher Bell, a driver who's been in the championship for several times, who shows speed a lot, who starting to really win a lot of races, starting to become the prominent Toyota Joe Gibbs Racing driver. And instead of then just showing you, oh yeah, we know that there are new drivers like whoever the young drivers are, it shows you Christopher Bell, it shows you guys like Ross Chastain just waking up in his house and then getting up to go brush his teeth, and access that nobody would ever see. And then you just feel like you connect with these drivers as people. In addition, but again, it's not a dramatic made-for-TV series. All the storylines are geared toward the race. And what the Netflix series really does is showcase the intensity of NASCAR. They show how fast these cars are going. They show the wrecks. They show, and then yes, also showing those personalities that you'd expect to see on social media and videos in 2024. So I think that, again, if there was, the past 20 years have been a bit of an in-between period. You saw Austin Cindric and Austin Dillon and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and all these drivers just kind of end up winning the Daytona 500 at different points. And it feels like, obviously, it's such an accomplishment no matter what, but it's also like, okay, it feels like there's almost too much parity. Right. And I think now the sport is starting to move in that direction of having parity while also, again, moving the sport forward.
He is with the Charlotte Observer, Shane Connuck. Before we let you go, Shane, speaking of parity, you mentioned parity, Martinsville Sunday, a lot of parity there lately with 3 different makes winning in the last 3 trips to Martinsville, Blaney, Larson, and Christopher Bell. And those were, I believe, Chevrolet, Toyota, and Ford, all 3 different makes winning. So some parity definitely at Martinsville. What's your lean? What's your gut telling you about how maybe Martinsville is a track of parity?
It is. And the reason why is because Martinsville, they call it the half mile of mayhem. And this time they'll be doing 400 laps around that thing. Flat track, like I said, half mile, and anything can happen. I said, what we saw the last time when Ryan Blaney won that race was that had a lot of wrecks. And at the end, Blaney was the one who ended up winning it. But there were a lot of things that he did that he needed to do, especially being a playoff race. Now, that being said, this is early in the season, and thus far, we've seen times when Toyotas have shown incredible speed, and it feels like, look at the Toyotas. But then there are also times when guys like Kyle Larson and William Byron win, and you see those Chevys and how much. But my biggest gut is telling me this in terms of Martinsville. We have not had a Ford win yet this year. Last year and the year before that, Fords with Joey Logano and then Ryan Blaney won the NASCAR Cup Series championships. And it feels like early this year, Blaney was showing incredible speed, but Austin Cindric even showing speed sometimes. Todd Gilliland showing speed sometimes. You wouldn't expect as much, but no Ford has gotten a win or really come incredibly close. That being said, I think it's time that we see that happen, and I think Ryan Blaney has shown so much speed this year, and it won't be like his last win at Martinsville at all, but I think that the way that we saw Kyle Larson win at Las Vegas again after he won that playoff race, I think we're going to see Denny Hamlin I think we're going to see Ryan Blaney get another win at Martinsville.
Go find it and follow him at Shane_Connuck, Connuck on Twitter. Shane, last question here for you from me. For a guy like me, who if I turn a NASCAR race on this weekend for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm kind of watching it from a 10,000-foot view. I need specific things to focus on from race to race. Can you give me 1 or 2 kind of interesting, nuanced storylines that I need to be watching for this weekend at Martinsville, and then, of course, next week at Texas?
I would say this weekend at Martinsville, you're going to want to be watching for how much passing goes on and really seeing the kind of racing that this could present. Because at Richmond and with some of these short track races that we're seeing, it's been hard for guys to even really pass each other. And then when guys become to earn dominant wins, it's not even like they're as dominant, it's just because they get in the right spot. I think that this Martinsville race, it'll be good to see if this could be a real good, just short track race. And then the following week at Texas, like I said, Ford has not gotten a win yet this year. And at this point, we're starting to move past that just beginning of the season. Every year it feels like, okay, Chevys win the most races, Toyotas seem fast a lot, and then Ford, they win the championship. So they're the best. And so I think that at this point, we're starting to really get to a point that, I don't think there's any concern anywhere, but considering how much speed that some Toyotas have had, I think that there is some room to be made up there for Ford at a certain point. Tracks like Martinsville and Texas, I think that could be where we end up seeing it.
Shane, great stuff, man. We really appreciate you taking time to jump on, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you guys so much. Really great to join you guys, and let's hope we have some great racing this weekend at Martinsville.
No doubt. Dang, Diesel, he's fired up, man. Does that get you ready? Are you going to be in front of the couch now?
It's easier to get fired up for something when you've got somebody who's passionate about it.
Sure.
Kind of taking you under your wing and telling you about, look, truth is, like I said, I grew up a NASCAR fan.
Yeah.
I was a big NASCAR fan. I was a Dale Senior guy. I loved, watching Rusty Wallace and these guys bang into each other on the racetrack. I miss that kind of hard-nosed, old school kind of NASCAR. And for a guy like me, I feel like the sport has gotten really soft over the past 20 years, 25 years. Like, they're not allowed to do this stuff anymore. They get in trouble for doing this stuff. And it's just, I don't know. It's the sport. I think the sport did a lot to lose guys like me and has not done a tremendous job trying to get guys like me back.
Shane was absolutely fantastic.
But yeah, Shane is great.
Wow.
Again, it takes a guy like that to sort of re-spark the interest in it. And, now I'm ready to run through a wall.
That may be the best NASCAR guest that this station, his knowledge, no doubt, his knowledge was absolutely phenomenal. So we really, really appreciate him taking time to join us today on Wire to Wire.
Yes, we do. And coming up next, this is a big thing happening across Major League Baseball, something that may make you feel a little nervous when it comes to walking into your next Major League Baseball game, or you may love it. We'll talk about it next here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app. Listen right here for your Final Four and national championship game coverage. The Fan Upstate is the only place to find it. Right around here in Greenville and Spartanburg and all over the area. We'll have exclusive Final Four and play-by-play coverage starting tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Game 1, NC State versus Purdue. Game 2, Alabama versus UConn. The national championship game Monday night at 7:30. This is the only spot to get it.
Let's go.
Listen up to the Fan Upstate. So this is something that's this is where like sports and society and technology all kind of come together in a Venn diagram that may wow you as something to say, wow, this is really cool and convenient, or it may scare the living hell out of you if maybe you lean a little more conservative on the political spectrum. So here's what's happening. 4 major league ballparks, including the Nationals and others, I mentioned this yesterday, have implemented facial recognition cameras that help you get into the gates of their ballparks faster. The technology is called Go Ahead Entry, and it requires a user who buys a ticket to go on MLB's ballpark app and submit a selfie. And then you just walk through the gate when you get there. Like there's no buying a physical ticket. There's no putting something in your Apple Wallet and scanning your phone when you get there. You just take a selfie of yourself. You walk up to the gate and you walk right in. Now, like they may stop you to do bag check security.
Sure.
That's still a normal thing that has to happen. But yeah, I mean, that's it. You
That
just
sounds
walk right in.
That sounds freaking awesome.
It does. It does. It sounds like a really interesting technology, but a lot of people are nervous about this. I think understandably so. We live in a time when people's identities are getting stolen left and right. People have issues with cybersecurity, and those are valid concerns. But it seems to me those are concerns from maybe a slightly older demographic who still really, really value and / are paranoid about their online security. And you're comparing that to a younger generation who's kind of accepted the fact that your information is already out there anyway. It's like it's already there. Like I read this fascinating article about this, and they talked to a guy who did opt into this entry policy.
Okay.
And he said that he was nervous about it, but he signed up for it anyway. And he was talking to his son about his privacy and about his online security. And his son said, "Dad, they've already got it. Like Apple's got it. You're carrying around a phone, so anybody can find out where you are basically at any time. Microsoft has all of your information." So, I mean, the question is, how concerned about your security are you? And how does that juxtapose your desire for convenience in life?
So I completely agree with the kid.
Yeah.
I completely agree with the kid. Listen, they already have it. If it's out there and they don't have it, they'll get it. Yeah. Like if it means that I can go to a ballpark, Diesel, and walk right in, I am all for it. So, are you kidding me?
So they tried this out at one gate last year at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, as you like to call it. And it worked, and people loved it. This is not like a new technology, okay? This is a technology that's been a couple of years in the works.
Sure.
And they liked it. It worked. So they started rolling it out to a couple more ballparks, and it's at 4 baseball parks right now to start the season. Not every single gate has it. Only select gates do. But because it's been so successful, and because the people who have opted into this ticketless system love it so much, it's planned to roll this out to 4 more ballparks by the middle of the season, which, there's 30 teams in Major League Baseball. 8 of the teams would have it. More than a third of ballparks would have this. And so the question, is like, would you do it? Would you sign up for this technology?
Diesel, the best text that we've ever gotten on Wire to Wire, 2 weeks in. Ready? Fan. By the way, you can text the show 71307. Texter says, "Fan, wait until people who are concerned about facial recognition find out about driver's license." That is great.
Hey,
that is
if
great.
you're worried about it, just do the Superman thing. Put on a hat, glasses, and or a mustache, and you're going to be fine. So the question is, how good does this technology work? Because anytime, there's a new tech, there's always hiccups. There's always issues. People are wondering if like you get there and it tries to scan your face and it just doesn't work. And now you're like, you got to deal with the customer service person there at the gate. No, they're not having any of these problems at all. So they're reporting at this point, 68% faster entry. The gates can process your entry. Let's say you've signed up for this.
Sure.
They can process your entry 2.5 times faster than any other person who's coming in with. I mean, most ballparks now are going touchless, so they just use your phone, use your Apple Wallet, whatever it may be. But there's still a few holdouts who are buying the old school paper tickets. It can handle 2.5 people with this tech to every one person with an older form of tech.
I'm for it, man. I don't know.
It's fascinating. It's interesting.
I could be wrong on this, Diesel, but I would say way more than 50% of people are for it. I think it's a small percentage.
Way more than 50%.
I think so, because the people who go to the games, man, they don't care. Like, they want to get in. It's frustrating sitting out there.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this is the article had a quote from Major League Baseball's Senior Vice President of Ballpark Experience and Ticketing. Her name is Carrie Zaremba. She says that the most commonly reported pain point for Major League Baseball attending games is entry. Like, that's the hardest part to get in. You know how it is. You've seen, thousands of people standing outside of gates trying to get in, and it's just a huge, huge pain in the ass. Well, she's saying that this has alleviated so much of that, and the fans who signed up for it love it. Madcraft says if there's just a few failures, you don't have a physical ticket to show. Well, Madcraft, that doesn't seem to be an issue. That's the point, is that this technology works so well. That it's not really a problem. So a lot of people are pointing to this as a problem, who haven't actually seen the technology. People like guys from the ACLU, they're saying that they want you to feel paranoid. They're saying this is the nuclear bomb of privacy. People need to ask themselves, do you want to live in a world where your face is scanned at every turn? Thing is, like, this is where we're going. There's not a whole lot of slowing it down. You can't stop it. You just hope to slow it down.
That's all you can do. But I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. Hopefully you are a fan of this station on the Fan Upstate. We appreciate you being a Tolo. Coming up next, the best audio from the week. And I love this, Diesel. What is Tiger Woods eliminating to get serious about the Masters? Next, he's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is the Fan Upstate.
Fan Upstate is your exclusive home for NCAA Final Four and championship game play-by-play. Check that one off the list. Saturday, 4 o'clock coverage starts right here on the Fan Upstate. Game 1, NC State and Purdue. Game 2, Alabama versus UConn. Alabama, the national championship game Monday night at 7:30. They couldn't start this thing at 6:30 so that we could go home just a little bit earlier. That'd be nice of them.
It would be nice.
And they didn't consult us, though. We are your exclusive home for it. You're not going to find it anywhere else in the upstate other than right here. 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. You got something to say about anything that we've talked about on the show today? Please give us a call on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. That's 844-326-3663. You can always text in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan.
I want to know, you have on our run sheet, Diesel, that Tiger Woods is eliminating something to train for the Masters. He has had some trouble.
We all have to have a regimen, you know.
So I want to guess. Is it carbohydrates?
No.
It's
he
not.
Was actually filmed a couple of weeks back. He was filmed eating like an In-N-Out burger.
Ah, that definitely has carbohydrates.
At an event. He was at an event and he was picking the pickles and the special sauce off of it.
In-N-Out's
so
pretty
like
good.
Who's shocked that boring ass Tiger Woods eats a plain cheeseburger? Nobody's
Sure.
surprised about that.
So if it's not carbs, is he cutting out soft drinks?
I don't know if he drinks soft drinks at all, but that's not what
He probably doesn't. All right, what's he cutting out to get serious about the Masters?
Tiger Woods is cutting out the thing that Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit say it's all about. He's cutting out the nookie. Tiger Woods says that he's giving out, well, not Tiger, his friend. Tiger Woods' friend says that Tiger's giving up sex to train for the Masters. Tiger not hanging out with the ladies right now. And we learned one thing from Mick in the movie Rocky.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, maybe we could turn that on.
What do we learn? Oh,
hang on.
Maybe let's not do that.
Hang on. We'll get this. We learned this from Mick in Rocky.
All right.
Women weaken legs.
Women weaken legs. Tiger Woods not hanging out with the ladies. Now, Tiger Woods, we assume, is single at the moment. Tiger's last relationship was a 6-year relationship that he had with a former waitress at his Florida restaurant. That relationship ended in 2023. So, yeah, Tiger's is keeping it tight. You know, he's keeping it focused for the Masters.
Madcraft says, I too am preparing for the Masters.
Oh, we need to start a dating app for the Tola.
God, the Tola.
I had a good idea a while back for a dating app.
All right.
And it was a sports-based dating app.
So
you could log on to the app and you could specifically choose to or choose not to date fans of different sports and teams.
That'd be funny.
So like if you're a golfer,
Sure.
you log into the app and you click yes, I'll date golfers. If you are a Clemson fan, you can log on and say, I'll date all football fans. I want to date football fans, mostly college football fans. I'll never date a Gamecock fan. If that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, most people, they'll date anybody. Most people. I mean,
Sure.
Look at the rise of STD rates in this country. But
God.
that was my idea for a dating app. And I think it held a lot of steam, but like everybody had a dating app. So I didn't invest.
So I think the most interesting thing about this, Diesel, if he wins, no, let me back up. If he even, because at this point,
he just needs to
get,
round.
That's right. He needs to make it without getting injured and make it to the third round. You know, make it to the opening day without having some kind of back pain. If he does really well for Tiger, you know, really well for Tiger isn't winning it anymore. Really well is, as you said, getting through a couple rounds. If he does really well, will the reason be because of this? It's got to be, right?
It's certainly part of it. I mean,
it has to be.
He withdrew from the 2023 Masters after 54 holes due to plantar fasciitis. And, you know,
Spell that, please.
Plantar fasciitis. But he's kind of done the Bruce Wayne thing since then. Like, you remember in The Dark Knight Rises, the third Batman movie?
Yeah.
Like, he comes out of the shadows and he just shows up and plays the Masters. Tiger doesn't miss the Masters. He's never skipped a Masters despite all of his health concerns. He always plays it. He says it's his favorite tournament. He always plays the Masters. But, like, you know, we've seen him either struggle through, you know, making the cut or struggle through the physicality of having to walk. Have you ever played, you play golf?
I don't.
So I've walked a few rounds, not very many. Like, I'm soft. I'm weak. I need to take a cart.
Sure.
It's way more fun to take a cart because you can carry more beer that way. But I've walked a round of golf just with, like, where you got to pick up your bag.
Yeah, that don't sound fun.
Yourself. It sucks. Like, in the heat of the summer,
July.
It really sucks.
If you're going to get me into golf,
Yeah.
Diesel, don't ever take me to a course and say, hey, Cole, we're going up. Because I'm going to look to your left. I'm going to look to the right and say, Diesel, where's the cart?
It takes to rent
Yeah,
a cart, right?
where's the cart?
It's not fun. I mean, it's great exercise, but it's 4.5 miles that you're walking
And sweating.
and picking up a bag and putting
And you're
picking
chafing.
up a bag and put it down. And then you got to swing clubs and you got to get your mind right. I mean, there's a lot to playing golf well when you're walking the course.
John Daly probably walked a lot of courses, right?
He rolled a lot of courses. That's true. Now, there is some precedent for this strategy here. Okay?
Oh, is there?
Yeah, a lot of athletes, you know, claim that they have done similar actions to get themselves ready. I mean, again, Mick told us. Oh, nope. Mick told us.
Women weaken legs.
So Muhammad Ali once claimed that he remained celibate for 6 weeks ahead of a match. I mean, he's pretty successful.
Sure.
He was pretty successful as a boxer. Muhammad Ali did it. Mike Tyson said that he once went 5 years without sex during his prime, which, I mean, proves that Mad Craft is in his prime, right? But then there's the opposite side of that. There's guys like Joe Namath, Broadway Joe, in his 1969 Playboy interview. He said that he liked to have sex before games to get rid of the nervous tension that an athlete has ahead of games. So we're going to find out.
Well, good luck, Tiger.
Yeah, we're going to find out if Tiger Woods can make a deep run into the Masters.
Matt Kraft said
he'll make a deep run through Florida waitresses after the Masters.
Sure. He'll get caught up. Mad Kraft says John Daly had a caddy. Well, we would expect that. We would definitely expect that.
John Daly had 2 caddies, one to carry his clubs, the other to carry his cooler.
That's great. Just a couple of texts that have come in. You can text the show 71307. Doesn't matter, Diesel. Tiger is still the GOAT, says one texter. Yeah, we probably both agree on that.
Tiger is the all-time media GOAT of the sport. Nobody will touch that.
Another texter says, you know why they call it golf, right? Because all the good 4-letter words are already taken. Funny. I'm not a golf guy, but
golf is fun. I never thought growing up, like I used to go over to my grandpa's house and he would have golf on TV. You know, this is when he had like 4 channels, you know, and golf was always on. And I thought it was so damn boring to watch on television.
So do you think it's more boring to play now? I mean, do you think it's more boring to watch than actually play? Because I actually like watching it.
It is until you start playing golf.
Bad.
No. Then it gets better.
Oh, really?
Golf on TV is pretty good. Now, what's great about a lot of the coverage now, especially if you are streaming, if you've cut the cord, you log into the ESPN app during a tournament, and you can pick and choose. Like, do I want to? You can stay with a certain group all day.
Right.
You can stay with select holes throughout the day. So I guess, you know, a lot of times it's the par 3s. It's the more difficult holes. So you can kind of pick and choose. It's like when you turn on a football game, you know, you can choose, do you want the traditional left to right view of the game? Do you want to watch the Madden camera, the one that hangs over the field? So like you get the ability to do it, but like what gets interesting about it is seeing these pros making like difficult shots, like shots that they'll put one in the rough just like everybody else, but they have the ability to get out of those situations. That's what makes them pros. Like they get out of that situation. For me, it would take 3 or 4 swings to get out. They're doing it in one, and they're putting the ball, 250 yards down the fairway and they're landing at 10 feet from the hole and it just drives you nuts. So like, how the hell did you just do that? I would have scored a 10 on this hole.
Yeah.
You made par and you were in rough shape.
Look at us talking NASCAR and golf in the same show.
Right.
I mean, stop the presses.
And baseball.
That's true.
We didn't talk a lot of baseball on this station.
That's true. Tolo says, golf is very refreshing for me. I like watching and playing. There's just something about it. Even my kids love watching it. I don't mind watching it. I really don't. Especially like the Masters. I think everybody should watch the Masters.
I did enjoy what our guest there in the last 2 segments ago was talking about it, Shane Connuck.
Yeah.
He was talking about this Netflix show about up-and-coming drivers. And that's great because golf did the same thing. They had a TV show. It was called Swing Through. Is that right? They did a show, 8 episodes, 2 different golfers were followed in each episode. And each episode, it was, these are guys who are pros at the top of their game right now. And this next episode, these are 2 golfers who used to be great, who are always kind of right on that edge of winning majors and winning a lot of money, but they're sort of coming to the end of their career. But they still got great personalities, so they're definitely worth watching. And then here's 2 guys who have placed well in a couple of tournaments. They're up and coming guys, but they haven't won their first tournament yet. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating because you got a chance to see their personalities. And Shane was telling us I hadn't seen the show that Shane's talking about on Netflix.
I haven't either. I need to watch it.
Need to. And like these are the things that may get me back into it. So that was the Swing Through, and they did a 2nd season of it. I haven't watched it yet. These might be the things if you've been kind of fence riding on getting back into golf or watching golf or playing golf, or you've been fence riding about NASCAR. These are the shows that you need to watch. Netflix is doing a fantastic job with these docs.
Maybe NASCAR needs what you were talking about with golf. You know how like you can follow around your own group. And I do enjoy that. Like from a golf standpoint, I don't want to see guys I don't know about because I only know of a handful because I'm not a golf guy, right? So I don't want to see 15 guys teeing off that I've never heard of. Maybe NASCAR needs to do the same thing. More creative ways for viewers to watch from their own driver perspective. I know they do like in-camera drivers, and they already have a lot of that, but maybe they need to maybe follow golf's example that they've done. You know, when you talk about kind of zoning in on your particular group or whoever your player is, and NASCAR standpoint, whoever your driver is, right? I do think that's interesting, but what's funny is there's always that guy, like when we were talking to Shane last segment, you were the guy that was saying you're not the NASCAR guy. What would it take to get into it? This segment, I'm the guy that's saying, Diesel, the exact same thing you are. What would it take to get me into golf?
Yeah. I
will ask this question, though. Not being a golf guy, do you have to start, in your opinion, and the Tolo's opinion as well, you can text the show 71307, also get in on the stream, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Do you have to start playing golf consistently to be able to watch it and appreciate it more on TV?
It helps.
Okay.
It helps. I mean, you know, again.
Well, I'm out.
I grew up next to a golf course as a kid. This is not me like brushing off my shoulder here. This was a crummy, like local golf course. Okay. Yeah. I used to go up there and hit golf balls at the range all the time. I never learned how to play golf. I really wish I had, because I didn't really pick up the game until I was like 35.
Sure.
But it certainly helps your appreciation to be able to watch the game when you go out and play the game. When you realize just how hard it is. Like it's hard. It takes a long time to get just your putting stroke down. And then it takes a long time to get your driving stroke down. And then your wedges and your irons, everything is different. Every club is different. Like there's a reason why they call it a lifetime game.
Sure.
To get, for most people, unless you're just like you grow up and you're Tiger Woods' kid and you have that crazy DNA in you, you know, it's hard for most people to you can't just walk out onto a course and be good. But I'm going to tell you right now, Ashley and I have already talked about this. She goes, when we have a kid, that kid's going to grow up with a golf club in his hand. Because there's so much money in it. I mean,
without a doubt.
Highly competitive, but there's so much money in it.
Billy D says Netflix is also going to have WWE Raw exclusively in the future. Diesel can get back into it just like NASCAR and golf. Not happening there either for me. Another streamer, you don't have to play it regularly to get into it, says Brandon. I've been playing it since 2005, and I still have trouble. A
Hey,
couple
golf
of
is a lot like sex. You don't have to be good at it to enjoy it.
couple of texts. No, Cole, it helps, but you don't have to play regularly to get into it hardcore.
I will say, if you want to try to get good at golf, like good, like going out there and shooting 10 over par for regular guys like us. If you want to get good at golf, you got to go out and play like twice a week.
And that's a big time commitment,
you can't
man.
play once a month and get good.
So that's 8 hours a week, 8 to 9 hours a week.
Yeah.
4 hours you think 4 hours this is about right per day?
That's about how long it takes.
Play 18.
Play 18. Like that's taking your time. That's not
So,
rushing through it.
32
On
hours.
Saturday for sure.
So 32 hours a month
Yeah.
it would take to really
It's like
get good at it.
part-time job.
And it is. It
It's a
really
part-time
is.
job.
It is. And that's why, that's why I have trouble getting into it. I enjoy watching it, but that's tough. Another texter, play a course the PGA plays, and that will humble you, says Michael in Simpsonville. That's a good point.
Believe it.
Have you ever done that?
No.
What's the closest one?
Like you mean physically to where we are?
Sure.
I don't know. Can somebody help us out?
Closest
Where's the
PGA tour?
course to Greenville. I mean, I've played what I would consider maybe 2 or 3 like nice courses. Not like municipals are good and you can have nice local public courses, and that's fine. I've never played what like a private course because I don't have that kind of money, right? And I think you got to know somebody who can bring you out onto the course to play those courses. I don't know. I don't have rich friends like that. If anybody knows anybody who's a member somewhere, I'd love to go play. Please invite me. But I've played what I would consider some nice public courses, and man, it's tough.
He says, texter, assuming he, maybe a she, the texter who talking, it was Michael in Simpsonville, actually. Michael in Simpsonville says, play a PGA course, and then another texter, I'm sorry, this is a different texter, says, closest course is East Lake, Georgia. So the closest PGA course to here is East Lake, Georgia.
I'm sure the cart fees for that course are more expensive than my entire day playing a course near.
Good chance.
So, no.
Very good chance. All right, coming up next, the best audio from the week. I'm going to play these 5 audio clips. This is the best audio that I could find from the week. It's pretty good audio. But I need to know from you, Tolos, Diesel, where does this audio rank? 1 to 5. Who wins and whose is the worst? Coming up next, get your thoughts in 71307. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. We're back. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Glad to have you along today as we are going to get in the best audio from the week. Is some really good stuff. Pretty funny. I like laughing, especially on a Friday. Doesn't it feel good to laugh on a Friday? But before we do, we did have a caller want to talk about the conversation. We had a lot of reaction from that, Diesel, from the golf conversation. I also got a text during the break from my buddy Joe. He said, pretty sure Quail Hollow in Charlotte is closer than East Lake. So
how expensive is Quail Hollow? Because we had a texter, Brandon, messaged in on the stream and said that East Lake in Georgia costs $10,000 a year for a membership.
Oh, is that it?
That's all? they couldn't charge more? What a crummy experience that must be.
Let's go to the Renewal by Anderson phone line. And who do we have?
We got Steve from Easley.
Steve from Easley. What's up, man?
Well, you were talking about golf and golf shows that you liked. And the Golf Channel had a show, I think it was called Making the Grade. And it was about two golfers, one from the West Coast, one from the East Coast, who were just short of making the tour. And the one from South Carolina was Robbie Beershank, who has Shanks driving ranges here around the upstate area.
Sure.
I don't know Robbie, but I do know Tommy well.
Robbie's his brother,
Yeah.
of course. And Robbie's caddy on the show was Chris Patton, a name you may have heard of from the Simpsonville area.
It does sound familiar.
He was a great golfer. He was a great golfer himself. He was very overweight, but he could strike that golf ball.
And what's the name of the show?
I'm not sure. I think it was Making the Grade or something like that. But it was on for a while, and it was a series, and it showed them in their regular everyday life and then trying to make the tour.
Sure.
Now, Steve, have you watched season 2 of Swing Through on Netflix? Season 1 was fantastic. Yeah, season 1 was great. It made it seem like these dudes were like social media influencers. You ever watch those videos where like social media influencers will rent a house?
Sure.
It's like the wildness of that. That's kind of what season 1 was like.
Well, I heard you talking about that and reminded me of this show that I'd seen. It was like a season long, 8 or 9 episode show about these two guys.
Well,
but I thought you'd find it interesting that Robbie Beershank was on there.
Well, Steve, I got a question here for you. Okay, so we just got a text at 71307. Texter says, Cole and Diesel, if you ever get the chance, you got to go to St. Andrews in Scotland. I hear amazing things about it. That's
we'll
a dream course for everyone. I just wonder, Steve, can we get you to pitch in a couple dollars for our St. Andrews trip? Could you sponsor us?
Let me check my wallet and get back to you.
Thanks for the call, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Diesel,
that's
mine
a
and yours.
Suggestion for the listener. Hey.
I don't think Scotland is anywhere on my radar. You need to go to Scotland to play that
Great
course.
Suggestion. I go to Scotland. Yeah.
Did you write that down? Write it down so we can remember.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a super chat. Okay. If anybody wants to throw in a couple dollars, please do. Please remit it to diesel@thefanupstate.com, and we will go on this golf trip
to Scotland. Cole and Diesel go to Scotland. And Cole don't even play golf. Diesel does. I'll drive the golf cart. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. Do they have golf carts in Scotland?
I don't know if you're allowed to over there. I think you have to ride a sheep.
Ride a sheep in Scotland. That might be true. A lot of good texts coming in, though, about this. We did not expect the Tiger Woods golf conversation to get as much reaction as it has, but it has.
The conversation centered around the news that Tiger Woods is abstaining from sex to train for the Masters. It's the only tournament that he absolutely plays every single year. He never misses the Masters, no matter how jacked up his leg is from the latest car wreck. You know, he'd be out there on a peg leg like a pirate, and he would be playing in the Masters because he just loves it.
I'll say this to kind of put a bow in the golf conversation. And I think you and I had this conversation in the 5 o'clock fight last week. I would not be opposed of being a non-golf guy. Mm-hmm. I would not be opposed of getting into golf. However, I think golf is going to have somebody like a Tiger. I'm not saying to the magnitude, but it's going to have somebody to get me in. Like I care a little bit about our local guy from who what played at Coastal or
You need
whatever.
a Tiger for your generation.
Sure.
Is what you're saying. And I truly believe that Caitlin Clark is the Tiger Woods of women's college basketball right now and probably for the next 10 years. I mean, look, of course they want to build more stars. Like Angel Reese is a star in that everybody knows her name and everybody loves the fact that she's such a hard-nosed player. But I don't think any of these other players are as marketable as Caitlin Clark. Like there are stars because they're great athletes, and then there are stars because they can transcend the game.
Sure.
Caitlin Clark, I think, is that star. She is the Tiger Woods of women's college basketball. The question is, can women's college basketball manufacture another Caitlin Clark next year and the next year and the next year? Because they're going to need that to maintain this. Otherwise, the sport is just going to crest and fall right back off.
So before the Masters gets here, I have a game. And this game involves you, Diesel, it involves me, and it also involves our Tolos. I don't know what's on the line for this yet. We'll have to come up with something. We may see if a sponsor can get involved, right? But we do have a game. And the game that I want to play is we all have to give our best welcome into the Masters impression. So,
Okay.
You know how when you turn the Masters on,
Yeah.
and
We might even have the Masters theme in the system if you want to try to find it.
oh,
Yeah, there's a good chance we have it.
I already got it. It's right here. I'm already on it. But who is it that does it? Is it?
Is it Jim Nance?
I think it is Jim Nance, right?
You're looking live
So
at the 12th hole at beautiful Masters.
that's what we're going to do. It is Jim Nance that does it. And being a golf guy, being a non-golf guy, I wouldn't know a ton about the Masters, and I do watch it, as I said. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a competition of who can do the best Jim Nance impression for the Open of the Masters. Because it is coming up in, what,
Couple weeks.
I was going to say 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah.
We're not far away. I want to know, and we might have to practice. Diesel, you might have to practice. I might have to do a little practice.
Are in bloom. Tiger Woods.
You got to lower your voice,
like
lower your deeper voice.
gotta bring it down here. I can't do it.
Hello, friends. It's hard, man. It's really hard
You
to
sound like you're doing play-by-play for a funeral, Cole. Jazz this thing up a little bit, can we?
It's hard to be the one and only Jim Nance, man.
That's right. That's the reason he's the only one who's doing it.
But a lot of good reaction, though. We appreciate the Tolos getting in on that. One texter said, not only do you have to ride a sheep in Scotland, you have to do it on the wrong side of the cart/sheep path, too.
Billy
Masters
D
is
says,
next week.
He says, let's all pitch in and look on Groupon for group rates to go to Scotland.
That's a good idea, Billy.
Yeah.
Great idea. I did not know.
I don't know. Airfare is one of those things that I don't like to skimp on. Like I don't trust budget airlines. There's a few things that I refuse to skimp on.
Uh-huh.
I don't skimp on whiskey. I don't skimp on toilet paper. And I don't skimp on airfare.
So you're not a Spirit guy.
No. I've been in the waiting room waiting to get on a flight, and
I thought you were going to give birth for a minute there in the waiting room.
Spirit Airlines crowd.
Yeah.
And there ain't no way
I
want to be on this.
I have
place.
several times.
I've flown Southwest. That's as much as I've
Southwest is not bad. Spirit's pretty.
It's rough.
Spirit's pretty bad. Sometimes you have to get a group of people and run to the back
You
to
have to get
even
out
it
and
out,
push.
you know? Yeah,
you have to get out
sometimes.
and push to
Sometimes
get
you
the
do. Evidently, the Masters starts on the 11th. So next weekend is the Masters. I didn't realize it was already here.
Yeah, I thought it was 2 weeks away. Pretty
Wow.
soon the azalea blooms are all going to fall off.
Jared in Pelzer says Augusta National may be closest from my place in Pelzer. It's less than 2 hours away.
Can I be real and say that azaleas are overrated?
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, they're beautiful. They're beautiful bushes for like 5 minutes. And then all the flowers fall off and they're just bushes.
Yeah, but they're pretty, man. They're pretty.
Yeah,
they're pretty,
for a
Diesel.
minute.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
They're beautiful. Especially, I mean, what if it was just bushes during the Masters? No flowers.
Who wants to sniff this bush?
God. All right, coming up next, we're going to finally get to the best audio from the week. We keep getting engulfed in the golf conversation.
Engulfed.
We're
gonna get
engulfed. and we're going to get unengulfed next as we give you the best audio from the week. He is Diesel. I am Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.
It's the newest show in the upstate, Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. We are the Fan Upstate, whether you're listening over the air, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. If you're listening to us on the free Odyssey app somewhere else, that's awesome. If you're listening to us after the fact on any one of the myriad of ways that you can listen to our podcast, we thank you for being there as well. However you consume us, just consume us. You know, one bite at a time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right, it's been a great week. We've had a lot of good conversation on this program, and we appreciate everyone being a Tolo. That means turning it on, leaving it on. T-O-L-O, right? Turn on, leave on. So we want you to stay locked into Wire to Wire. However, there is other audio in the sports world, in the just in the general media world, that is absolutely fantastic. So the best audio from the week, I have 5 clips of audio here, Diesel, and I'm going to allow you to tell me which is the best piece of audio and the worst piece of audio.
Okay.
I think these are very interesting. Tolos, you can chime in as well, 71307. We're going to start with this. This comes from Awful Announcing on Twitter, which is a great follow, by the way, if you don't already follow them. The New York Mets, Diesel, have not had a good start. They had a terrible year last year, long summer, Mets fans just so tired of ownership. Well, guess what? They started 0-5 this year. So here is the play-by-play announcer of the New York Mets, and it's only game 6, but it's already the lowest of lows.
Nobody in the ballpark. 1-5, hitless through 7. Feels like rock bottom.
In game 6, game 7, it's already rock bottom. This was game 6 of 162.
Who's got better attendance, do you think, the Mets or the A's? Because we've seen a lot of photos of A's fans. They'll come to the ballpark, but they'll stay in the parking lot to protest the fact that the team is moving.
So this Mets video on Awful Announcing on Twitter, there was nobody there. So they still have 156 games left, and the play-by-play guy for the Mets is saying things like,
nobody in the ballpark. 1-5, hitless through 7. Feels like rock bottom.
Rock bottom?
Kids, if you're ever wondering exactly how you get fired from a big-time job,
there you go.
That would be it. So I know that anytime I'm gonna let you guys in on a secret. Every single thing that I've ever asked Cole, hey, have you seen this movie? Have you seen this show? He's never seen it. He's never seen it. Okay.
That's not everything.
No, it's true.
1 out of 100.
It's true. Well, there's a show you should watch called Brockmire.
Never seen
it.
It
stars Hank Azaria, who is the voice of Mo on The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on SNL many, many times. Actor, you recognize his voice and his face. He was a play-by-play guy in the movie or in the show, I think, the Kansas City Royals.
Okay.
But he finds out that his wife stepped out on him with the next door neighbor while he was calling a game. So what does he do? He gets hammered drunk, locks the door to the broadcast booth, and just lets it fly.
No. On air?
On air. Just lets it fly. I mean, the worst expletive-filled tirade, absolutely hysterically funny.
Sure.
And then the show, he gets busted all the way down to like minor league ball, and he's got to build his way back up. It's got huge.
Oh, so he still had a job.
Yeah, he found another job.
How in the world?
Worst of the worst job that nobody would want. The show stars Brent Musburger.
Yeah.
Well, not stars, like a cameo from Brent Musburger, a cameo from Joe Buck, who calls everything.
Right.
When it comes to a big game, Joe
World
Buck's calling
Series.
it.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth watching.
So write that one down. Let us know where that one ranks of the other 4. We're going to get to the other 4 right now. That was Matt's play-by-play audio. Feels like rock bottom. That's pretty good. That's going to be hard to top. Here is Don Staley. This was this past week. This is now an English lesson. Take your regular hat off that you're wearing and put your professor hat on. Go back to your college days and answer the question. If you're laying down in a room somewhere or in your bed, are you laying or lying? That is the question that Dawn Staley and her assistant coaches were having, except Dawn goes a little further than this.
I have a brief question, because you guys are writers, right? I just posted a tweet, and we had a long discussion in our coaches meeting. So our players were in the locker room lying or laying down. Lying? You sure? So I told our coaches, someone taught me you lie to get laid, right? Sorry.
Say
So
what?
excited to be here.
So that was Dawn Staley on her way of remembering lying or laying. I had not heard that one
That's
before.
great.
Have you?
No, I haven't heard that piece of audio yet. That is fantastic. Again, another reason to love Dawn Staley.
One of the reporters, before she broke out that great example of how that analogy, one of the reporters sounded like a female reporter, said it's lying. And she gave an analogy, right? But it wasn't exactly Dawn's analogy of.
Someone taught me you lie to get laid, right?
First time, Dawn. First time hearing that one. We appreciate you filling us in. So that is Dawn Staley this past week when they're trying to figure out if it's lying or laying. I am not sure exactly which one it is either. English was not my best subject, but I would have probably gotten it wrong. So you have the Mets play-by-play audio. You have Dawn Staley lying or laying. Third, you have Pat Kelsey, who was the basketball coach at Charleston, right? He left Charleston to go to Louisville. Well, if you ever question Pat Kelsey's recruiting efforts, you don't have to anymore.
You're going to ask some questions about recruiting and all that stuff. You want to know if I can recruit? Meet my wife, Lisa.
So evidently Lisa, and you hear all the clapping. I mean, this is incredible clapping. They're acting like he just said something so profound. Evidently Lisa is enough of a smoke show to prove that Pat Kelsey can recruit in Louisville. So guess what, Louisville fans? No need to worry. Look at his wife. He can definitely recruit. You guys are in good shape. That's Pat Kelsey of Louisville. The fourth one is Caitlin Clark. This one absolutely drives me up the wall, Diesel. One of the biggest stars the sport has ever seen at one of the most anticipated Final Fours ever. Okay, it's a Final Four media interview, and you would think they're in a quiet room, right? Soundproof walls, something to where, there's not going to be, forklifts in the background. Well, this is Caitlin Clark being interviewed yesterday.
In the NCAA tournament last year, and she hasn't shied away at all.
Caitlin, what would you say drives you, and how would you describe your on-court mentality?
Yeah, I think what drives me is just, I think there's always.
So if you're watching that video, Caitlin is having to lean past her microphone to hear the reporters because all you hear in the background is.
And how would you describe
beep, 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 beep.
Bob the Builder over
I mean, what are they doing?
Yeah.
What are they moving on a forklift during the media interview?
Blows me away. They do this at Clemson. You ever covered a game at Clemson? They do after the game when they do the player interviews. I don't know if they still do it this way, but the last time I was there, this is how they did it. They had all the players come out into the tunnel. Beside the, in the corner of the end zone, come out to the tunnel to do interview questions because, they would want like 10 reporters to be able to gather around them. But of course, down there, you've got team buses, you've got people moving equipment off of the field. It's really loud. It's a terrible place to do it. Whoever at Clemson hasn't yet figured out that maybe we shouldn't have, Trevor Lawrence, or maybe we shouldn't have Deshaun Watson, or whoever it is answering questions right here. I can't figure.
I think I could be wrong, but I think they have moved them into a hallway now. Not much.
Yeah, I've been
better.
in that hallway. It's tiny. It's cramped. There's a lot of people in there. It's really loud.
Correct.
Come on, you got all the money you could possibly need.
So your Final Four, you're up there with a microphone. You're wanting to ask the best question ever as a news reporter, right? And you're wanting to get the $1 million answer.
In the NCAA tournament last year,
but all you hear is
she hasn't shied away at all.
Caitlin, what would you say drives you, and how would you describe your on-court mentality?
Yeah, I think what drives me is just.
Her face is like, I'm so over this.
What was the product that had the tagline, want to get away? Southwest Airlines. You want to get away? Yeah, that's this.
All right. That was clip 4 of Caitlin Clark. So we had clip 1 of the Mets play-by-play announcer. We had clip 2 of Dawn Staley laying or lying. Clip 3 of Pat Kelsey explaining how he can recruit because of his wife. Clip 4 of Caitlin Clark trying to get a word out.
If clip 5 is not you saying, I like big men inside, then this whole list is bunk.
What were we even talking about?
We were talking about NC State and Purdue.
Oh, DJ Burns. I like
we're talking about DJ Burns.
the
You said,
big guys
big
going inside.
I like big guys inside.
Well, this one's pretty good. Kamala Harris. Everyone knows who Kamala Harris is, right? Regardless of your political beliefs. Kamala Harris gave us a history lesson this morning, and this was very fascinating. So, before I even comment, I'm going to let you hear the breaking news from Kamala Harris this morning.
Do you know, okay, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022? Think about that. And talk about progress, better late than never, but progress. And what that has done, because of course, when, I had a bracket, it's not broken completely, but I won't talk about my bracket. But you know what, how we love March Madness, and even just now allowing the women to have brackets, and what that does to encourage people to talk more about the women's teams, to watch them. Now they're being covered, and this is the reality. People used to say, women's sports, who's interested? Well, if you can't see it, you won't be.
So your vice president has broke news this morning.
Wow.
That women's college basketball wasn't allowed to have brackets until 2022. That was 2 years ago.
That is breaking news.
Diesel.
From Kamala Harris.
Do you know how long it's been since women's have had brackets? 1982. 1982. Come on.
That is virtually indefensible.
Where does she get that? That maybe she heard something wrong.
That is virtually indefensible. Like I can't imagine what it's like to be asked literally a question about almost anything in the world. Like nobody's going to come and ask us like, hey, what can you tell us about the political situation in Bahrain right now?
I don't know.
She has to be able to have something to say about that. But this, I mean, come on.
Do you know? Okay, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022?
You can't have a bracket.
Yeah, they just got tennis shoes in 1998,
and they just started voting.
Time to be alive.
I believe they just started voting in 22 as well. So of the five,
if it can't vote, politicians generally don't care about it.
That's
they
true.
don't know anything about it.
That is true. Of the five, the Mets play-by-play, Dawn Staley lying to get laid, Pat Kelsey meet my wife, Caitlin Clark forklift, and Kamala Harris. Did you know, Diesel, the best piece of audio from this past week?
It's tight between 1 and 5. It's tight between 1 and 5. The Mets, this feels like rock bottom because it's just like, man, you're a pro. You're supposed to know not to say this. Dawn's just riffing. She's, shooting the bleep, having a good time, and she's a funny lady.
She is.
I guarantee you funny stuff comes out of Dawn Staley's mouth all the time. Kamala Harris just being a complete twit and not either understanding the question or truly believe it. She said it with so much conviction.
She did. Did you know?
Part. Like, she was like, you guys, I'm going to teach you something right now. They didn't have brackets until 2022. I'm gonna go with Kamala Harris's. They just got brackets.
The winner is.
Do you know? Okay, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022?
That's your winner. That's Diesel's winner. Wow. Text us. Let us know what you think. 71307. What was the winner of those audio pieces? The best audio from the week. Those were really, really entertaining, Diesel. Really entertaining.
Trey from Kentucky texts in at 71307 asks the question, so Tiger keeps playing the Masters for the bushes?
Ooh.
Yeesh.
Yeesh. That's probably the right answer there.
Spur Daddy says one time at band camp on the YouTube stream. What's up, Spur Daddy? And all 68 of you. Let's make it 69. How many? Let's get one more person watching the stream.
It'll be 70.
One more person. Turn on the stream.
All right, coming up next, Diesel is going to conduct today's 5 o'clock fight. It is time to fight. What are we fighting about today? Surely we can't come up with 3 different things every single day to fight about. Well, guess what? You're wrong. We have the 5 o'clock fight. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is Wire to Wire. Everybody loves a good fight. We don't turn on the news to hear about all of the roses and, as Diesel said, his beloved azaleas. Everyone loves a good debate, and this is the best debate in the upstate every single day right here on Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. It is time for the 5 o'clock fight. Before we get to the fight, I do want to let you know a little bit of a programming note. We will have Final Four and championship game coverage exclusively right here on the Fan Upstate. NC State Purdue, game 1 starting Saturday at 4 p.m. Game 2, Alabama and UConn. Should be a really, really great game. In game 2, national championship game, Monday night, 7:30 p.m. All 3 games exclusively on the Fan Upstate. So tune in and Tolo all weekend because there are going to be some fantastic basketball games, and we want you to have the ability to get the best of the best. And what do I mean by that? We want you to be able to get the best play-by-play and not have to sit at home and think, man, these announcers are absolutely terrible. We want you to have the best of the best right here on the Fan. So tune in all weekend for the best Final Four and championship game coverage. All right, it's time to fight. I love today's 5 o'clock fight topics. These are very, very intriguing, Diesel. And the first one makes me hungry. So let's get right into it. So if this is the first time you have tuned in to Wire, every day at 5 o'clock, we have the 5 o'clock fight. There's 3 topics that Diesel and I will fight about. The way it works is after we give both sides of our argument, we then turn it over to you, the Tolos. Turn it on, leave it on. We want you to decide who wins and who loses. Let us know not only who wins and who loses, but why Diesel won, why I won. Give a little bit of support to your thoughts. And with that being said, Diesel, let's get them up, put them up. It's time for. All right. I love, Diesel, a really good hot pizza. Who doesn't love a pizza? On a Friday especially, go home and get yourself a hot pizza from your favorite pizza place.
It's easily my favorite all-time food.
I 100% agree. However, I don't know if we'll agree on this. The only way for pizza to hit the spot, I mean, for you just to say, oh my word, this is fantastic. Just smack, lick your lips. Lick your lips good. The only way to eat pizza, the only correct way to eat pizza is not the garlic butter, not the marinara sauce they give you, but pour your own bottle of homemade ranch on the pizza. Dip it in it, pour it on it, however you want it. Pizza and ranch is the only way to eat pizza.
So what you're telling me is that you don't really like pizza. You just like you like pizza flavored ranch.
No.
Now look, I am all for have your food the way you want it, right? I'm the guy who will say, if this is what you want to do, put A1 sauce on a filet mignon.
Sure.
If that's what you want to do. Like, don't tell me how to eat my food.
I agree.
But ranch is so far down the list on a good dipping sauces that you can have a pizza with. Like, first of all, I want to taste the pizza, right? There's a mix of flavors here. You got the bread, you've got the garlic, you've got the sauce, you've got the cheese, you got the toppings, all that. That is a great mix already. You don't need to go screwing it up by putting a blanket of ranch dressing on this. You clearly are a ranch head.
Yes.
But if I had to power rank the 4 different dipping sauces that I would dip pizza into.
Okay.
And I don't dip the pizza, I dip the crust. Like, to me, it's
Sure.
crust only.
Sure.
Number 1 is garlic butter. Number 2 is marinara sauce. Number 3 is nothing.
Okay.
Number
As is.
4 is ranch.
Wow.
Yeah. Ranch is 4th on my list. So that's me saying that nothing is better than ranch.
Nothing is better than, so eating it plain.
Yeah.
Just the way
plain
it comes is better. So am I the only one that says pizza and ranch is the only way to eat pizza? Madcraft says Cole Diesel knocked you out in the first round, fight's over.
This feels like, like when you were in elementary school and high school, the rectangular pizza you had to put ranch on it because that was barely pizza. And then it feels like
on Wednesdays
you bought in, man. You got lost in the sauce.
Texter says Diesel wins the pizza debate by landslide. So I guess nobody else in the upstate, in the entire state, wherever you may be listening from, worldwide on the Odyssey app, nobody does what I do. Nobody dips
Stop
pizza.
eating your pizza like a toddler.
It's the best, though, man. It's the best. It's the absolute best. Well, continue to get your thoughts in, especially if you agree with me, because I do need at least one person. Need some help. All right, it's time now for. Let's see if I can make it up here. The sport of NASCAR. We had on Shane Connuck earlier in the program. If you missed it, I hate it for you because it was absolutely fantastic. Diesel talked about in that interview him not being a NASCAR guy, and I wouldn't call myself a NASCAR fanatic either. However, the question for the round 2 5 o'clock fight is NASCAR trending up or trending down? Diesel, you say
it's going just like down.
Ah.
It's like when Wile E. Coyote runs off the cliff. He pauses there for just a second because gravity doesn't matter in cartoons, and then.
So you don't think it's gaining any steam?
No, it's not gaining any steam. You look at the ratings. The ratings are down. Attendance is down. This sport, NASCAR, is in serious danger of re-regionalizing as a Southern sport only. And honestly, I think that would be a good thing for the sport. The people who love NASCAR, you're diehards. I'm not saying that you're wrong here. But on a national scale, the fact the personalities aren't as interesting as they used to be. The rules are being changed constantly. It's gotten so expensive, your average Joe can't even afford to go to races anymore. Look, it's trending way down. And I could see this thing shrinking back. And, sports don't like to do that. They only want to expand. They don't like to shrink. But I genuinely think it's going to shrink.
Last year, you would have been correct. However, 2023 to 2024, small sample size. We're only, 7 or 8 races in. NASCAR viewership is around 3.85 million this year compared to last year, 2.86. So that is a 35% jump this season. Again, it's very early. So I will say it's trending up. I don't know why, but
I think it's trending up through 8 races, but compared to where this sport was 15, 20, 30 years ago, it's still way down.
Well, it's going to have to take some time.
It will.
Going to have
to build it back up. It's going to have to be a slow build.
Without a doubt. I do want to be able to get back into it. I'm not saying like I'm never going to watch, because I do. I'll watch the last 50 laps. But if I'm being honest, that's about all of the laps I can watch. 50 laps, maybe the last 30. The other, too boring. All right, let us know who you thought won round 2. Diesel said NASCAR trending down. I say trending up. It is now time for
Final round. Fight.
All right, it's the final round, the final chance for me to get a win today. Are you for or against facial recognition software coming to MLB stadiums? Diesel talked about this earlier in the program. I said I am all for it. I love it. If it means me getting to go to a baseball game, not having to stand in the heat, not sweating between every crevice in my body, not having to wonder if this line's ever going to move, not having to deal with a crying baby behind me, AI me up, baby. Am I wrong, Diesel?
Yeah, you're absolutely wrong. Number one, people want to hold on to what semblance, tiny little bit of privacy that they think that they still have. It's like a shred of what we used to have as far as privacy goes. But what's to stop any government agency who's looking for people out there with warrants from just bullying their way in and legislating their way into a system so that they can look for wanted persons? Like, what's to stop that? What's wrong with like the old school way? Paper tickets. Truthfully, the reason I'm not a criminal. I don't care if they catch, a child, rapist or whatever, because he scanned his face to go to a Braves game or something. That's fine by me. I don't really have a problem with that. My problem is I miss having ticket stubs. I miss the paper reminders of cool things that I've been to. Like, I've got murals on my wall that I've made out of like collages of paper tickets. I miss that. You don't realize how much I miss opening up a CD case and then folding out the liner notes and seeing all the art that they've created, or for records or concert tickets. I miss the old school way of doing that. I think we're really losing something there.
I am all for it. I would love for them to know my face. I think it would mean a lot to me. They know who I am. All right, let us know what you think. Madcraft says, I think Cole wins round 2. What do you mean you think? Either I won round 2 or I didn't, Madcraft. I mean, can I get a sweep of something around here? Can I get a win? I have not had good support today from the audience. I mean, come on. Fan says, texter says, just put your credit card on Facebook. Another texter says, round 1 Diesel. I wouldn't put ranch on pizza and feed it to my dog. That's pretty bad. Another Tolo, recognition NASCAR?
Regionalize.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's my, I told you English wasn't my best subject. Regionalize NASCAR into 5 regions. Use the pre-playoff point system. Top 8 drivers from each region race the final race for the Cup, says Joey. All right.
I don't hate that, Joey. I really don't.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Let us know how we can improve the 5 o'clock fight. Well, you can get topics in. How can you do that?
What do you want Diesel and Cole Bryson to fight about next? If you've got an ass, I'll kick it. Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line fight on the Fan Upstate.
Yeah, we appreciate JD in Simpsonville, who has emailed in a couple of different times.
Yes, man.
With 5 o'clock fight ideas. We've used a few of them. We want you to give us things that we ought to fight about. I mean, truthfully, here's the rules. We have to pick different sides of the argument.
Sure.
We have to passionately argue for our side of the argument, and you decide who's right and who's wrong. So Diesel at thefanupstate.com, put the word fight in the subject line of your email and give us some ideas. Share your ideas. Anything is on the table.
Yep.
As long as it's FCC compliant. we can't fight about debating which of Tiger Woods' mistresses were the hottest.
True.
But you know what I'm saying? We will fight about anything.
Another Tolo on the text line says Cole round 1, Diesel round 2, Diesel round 3, 2 of 3. So that would mean that I finally, Diesel, had someone agree with me on ranch on pizza.
It's about time.
That was the only one.
Yeah, ranch is come on, dude. You just want to taste the ranch.
It's so good, man. It's so good. It takes a pizza from good to great.
My wife puts ranch on every slice of pizza.
Really?
We'll bring home a pizza or we'll bake one in the oven. And I've already grabbed my stuff and walked to the living room, and I'm ready to sit down and watch a show and eat some pizza. She's like, hey, do you want some ranch? No, I don't want ranch. If I wanted ranch, I would have gotten ranch.
I don't know why, but of all condiments, barbecue sauce on chicken, ketchup on French fries, the condiment that does it for me, that really sets it off, is pizza and ranch. There's nothing better. I think ranch is the best condiment ever made.
Madcraft, this is just silly. Madcraft says, ever dipped pizza in ketchup?
Yeah, that's gross. I've never done that.
Why? I mean, it's basically at its core the same. It's just more marinara sauce, right? It's
too much tomato.
Flavored incredibly differently, but it's still tomato sauce.
One Tolo on the text stream from the 978 says, ranch on pizza is like putting peanut butter on spaghetti. That is not a good comparison, Texter.
It's like lamb and tuna fish.
Ooh, that's rough. Peanut butter on spaghetti I've never heard of before. That's a new one for me. Maybe that came from Elf, the movie Elf. He put something on spaghetti.
No, he put maple syrup on spaghetti.
Oh, that's right. It was maple syrup. No, I'm not.
Finally, there's a movie that we both seen. Wow.
Of course.
And we come to it at last.
It's a Christmas movie. Of course I have. I have. I would never, ever, ever, ever dip pizza in ranch. I think that's the absolute worst. Now, I do say, Diesel, on the recognition, on the AI stuff for facial recognition for the MLB games, you said earlier, there's 4 MLB teams who have already.
Yeah, there's 4 so far.
You don't know those 4.
Nationals Park. If you give me just a minute, I'll be able to link
back
to
the
article. Nationals Park is one of them. San Francisco, the Giants Park is one of them.
We asked Bill Shanks yesterday. Diesel asked Bill if he had heard anything about this for the Atlanta Braves, and Bill said no, he had not. So I don't know. I would think, though, Diesel, this wouldn't be something the MLB implements, or I guess it's just up to the team, because you would feel like you kind of want this league wide.
Well, they're testing it here and there. I mean, they're not. This is one of those things. It is a new technology. They need real world testing to know how good it is.
So does the article explain how you submit your face?
Yeah, you just go on the MLB ticketing app and take a selfie.
And that's it.
It's that simple. Like there's probably rules in there that say, hey, don't wear a hat when you're taking this selfie. But
Sure.
like you and I both have iPhones. I don't know if you use the facial recognition to unlock your iPhone.
Yeah.
But mine recognizes me when I'm wearing sunglasses. And 9 times out of 10, it recognizes me if I'm wearing a hat and sunglasses. So it does a pretty good job of picking through potential obstacles to pick up your face.
That's interesting, man. Like I see why people would be opposed to it, but I don't see anything that scares me off. I would love the Braves to do that. I don't go to a ton of Braves games, but that would be really awesome. That would be really cool.
Well, again, this is the VP of essentially VP of baseball experience for Major League Baseball. They do all kinds of studies and surveys, and they talk to fans, and fans tell them that getting into the stadium is the worst part of going to a game.
Makes
because
sense.
There's just thousands of people who are all. I mean, the game starts at a set time. Everybody wants to be in before first pitch, right? So everybody rushes to the gates, and that's the biggest point of congestion. And this can process 2.5 people to every one person.
Wow.
Who's going through even like a modern touchless using like your app, your watch, or your wallet on your phone.
I would like to be a tester. I'd like to try it. I want to see how fast it works. If you have to stop or not.
I will find the ballparks who are already doing it, but 4 are already doing it. One of them are the Washington Nationals, and then there's 4 more coming on by mid-season. That's the expectation.
Sweet.
So there you go. When we come back, oh my God, the Carolina Panthers have actually done something right. A big move that they made that they really, really needed to make, and I congratulate them and applaud them. Not David Tepper, not you. You don't get any credit for this. That's coming up next here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. We are the Fan Upstate. The Carolina Panthers have finally done something right.
Wow.
And I think they deserve some credit for this.
Is this April Fool's?
No, that was 4 days ago. We don't get to extend that holiday anymore. But before we get to what the Carolina Panthers just did, we got to get to the poll results from earlier in the show. We asked the question, Clemson fans, will you be pulling for South Carolina to win another women's national championship? In parentheses, Twitter polls are anonymous. Answer honestly. And the results of the poll don't really shock me. What does shock me are the replies.
Good replies,
poll, okay? So your options were openly, yes, I am rooting for South Carolina women's basketball to win another national championship. Secretly, yes, was option 2. And then absolutely not was option 3. So far, 93 votes and growing. This has only been out for 2 hours, so please jump on the Fan Upstate Twitter and answer the poll. Answer honestly if you're a Clemson fan, okay? Again, Twitter poll votes are anonymous. We can't see which way you voted because most Clemson fans would not under any circumstances admit openly that they are rooting for South Carolina at anything.
Sure.
So number 1 leading the poll, not surprisingly, absolutely not, has 75% of the vote, which to me feels a little low. Truthfully, I thought, this would be in the high 80s, right? But openly, yes, says 18.3% of the vote. 18% say that as Clemson fans, they are openly, loud and proud, rooting for South Carolina women's basketball to win another national championship. 6.5% say they are secretly rooting for South Carolina to win another national championship. So there you go. 25% of Clemson fans, 1 out of 4. Maybe somebody if you're in a room and there are 4 Clemson people in that room with you, one of them wants to see South Carolina win another national championship.
You know what? I didn't think it would be so overwhelming. I thought, Diesel, there would be more votes for secretly yes.
That's what I thought too. That's what surprises me about this. What doesn't surprise me is text messages that we got in response. Clemson Addict says, I'm a Dawn Staley fan, just hate her employer. So I'm torn. Blake Hammett says, I don't care who you pull for in this rivalry. You never pull for the other team in any sport. So he is in the absolutely not category.
Sure.
Section 5, Death Valley, says, nah, it's Paige Buckets season. Let's see here. Shadow of Death Valley suggests that our man cards should be revoked simply for asking the question.
Really?
Post a GIF of,
that would be awful.
David Spade snatching a man card away. Let's see here. And let's see. Nick Eason's burner says, not even a question. I would pull for the devil himself against South Carolina.
So it's not an overwhelming.
These are people that I thought would want to keep their answer quiet, but they want it out there. Oh, I missed this. Quavo Juancho says, I'm going to have to be careful with this because there's curse words in it. Twitter polls are anonymous, but I am not. Bleep the whole program. Hope they lose tonight.
Obviously a Clemson fan, right? You would think. You would assume.
Very open.
Not supposed to assume nowadays, but you would assume that would be a Clemson fan. You know what? I guess it is a discussion of when you become a Clemson fan, Diesel, you have to sign the dotted line that says, I, myself, whoever, whatever your name is, put your name goes here, will always pull for Clemson 100% of the time, and I will always pull for my rival 100%, or I'll always pull against my rival 100% of the time, and I will never waver from these terms and conditions.
I think it's a fair assumption to say that for a good number of our listeners, your fandom is stronger than your marriage.
No. On a sports radio station?
You might stray in your marriage. You might say, you know what? Maybe after all, to death, let's not part.
Texter says 75% of Clemson fans are hellbound. So what about the other? How did you come up with 75%? I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't know. Like, I don't know that there's a problem with pulling for Don Staley tonight.
No.
You not pulling for Don Staley, what does it benefit you, man?
It makes Clemson basketball as a program. It makes the university have to take Clemson basketball more seriously. You haven't. You got smoked 109-40 against Don Staley's team.
Sure.
Now, are you still butthurt over that ass whooping? I mean, they nearly, I don't know if this has ever happened in a basketball game, a Division I basketball game where they're playing another Division I team. And I'm not talking like a high major versus the worst team in a small major in a mid-major conference, but two high majors playing each other. South Carolina damn near tripled you up this year.
It was embarrassing.
109-40. 40.
Yeah, they whooped you.
They didn't beat you by 40. You only scored 40, and they beat you by 69 points.
Well, it's good to know that the majority of Clemson fans are being loyal. The majority are being loyal. But how do you not love Don Staley?
You got to.
She's the best, man.
Like, liars, what people
you
lie
to get laid. You lie to get laid, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta love it. I love Don Staley.
All right, tell me something good, Diesel, that the Panthers did.
Yeah, so the Carolina Panthers finally got something right. They've made all of these DA moves over the past 2 seasons. They ship their best wide receivers away for nothing. They ship their best running back away for nothing. They get nothing in return. You draft guys in the first and second round, and then you trade them away 3 or 4 years later for a bag of peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
But finally, the Carolina Panthers office has gotten one right. The Carolina Panthers have signed Derek Brown to an extension, a multi-year extension for Carolina's best defensive player. Well-deserved. Congratulations to Derek and his family. We don't yet have the terms of this deal. It is a multi-year contract extension.
$96 million.
Yow.
4 years.
4 years, $96 million. That is a ton of cash.
For a defensive tackle.
They have it to spend now.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is going to affect their cap and if they have any room in the future to pay guys. But, I mean, Derek Brown was an absolute beast in 2023. It was his best individual season since joining the NFL. He made his first Pro Bowl, 103 tackles, which is a league record for a defensive lineman. You know what the previous record was? 98.
Ooh.
It was held by Clemson's Christian Wilkins playing with Miami in 2022. Derek Brown was entering the final year of his rookie deal. He was an absolute warrior for the Carolina Panthers last season. And again, so I can't say more that this is a well-deserved raise. Derek played in 89% of snaps for Carolina in 2023. For a dude that big to play 9 out of every 10 plays defensively for the team. His coach, Ejiro Evero, says, quote, he plays hard. Probably the most impressive thing he does for a man that big, 340 plus pounds, to run down the field, play hard every down. He makes plays 40 yards down the field.
Pro Football Focus, which is an outlet that I do trust probably 75% of the time.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Pro Football Focus handed Brown the 4th best defensive grade among any interior defensive lineman in 2023. So when you're in the same conversation as Dexter Lawrence, Aaron Donald, Quinnen Williams, and you're number 4 and you're a D tackle, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. However, you know what would have been even better about all of this? If Derek Brown signed this nice extension and the Carolina Panthers said, we really want to make our defense good. Well, maybe you should have kept Brian Burns, and then you extend this guy. You extend Derek Brown, the Auburn Tiger, and you have a pretty elite defense. Maybe then you still have a little cap room to bring in Jadeveon Clowney, because they did bring him in for for fairly cheap.
Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney on the opposite side of Brian Burns would have been scary.
And then Derek Brown in the interior.
Yeah,
that'd have been
that
nice.
Would have been scary. So again, they've made a lot of stupid decisions, and maybe the idea was that the cupboard is so bare that we have to trade off players. We have to get picks. We don't even care if they're 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round picks. We just need picks. So it stinks.
I hope
Carolina
Derek
should have paid Brian Burns. They didn't. We're in this room now. Deal with it.
I hope Derek, on a serious note, is able to survive and live off of $24 million a year as an interior defensive tackle.
Yeah, the struggle is real.
I mean,
struggle is real when you're making $24 million a year.
That is absolutely fantastic.
So we want to spend a couple of minutes here, not a ton of time, and this has, I think, been parsed pretty heavily, but it's worth going back into again. The Carolina Panthers draft coming up, and as a matter of fact, 2 Thursdays from yesterday, we're going to be live at Dave & Buster's.
Let's go.
For a draft special. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about where the Carolina Panthers should go, predicting where we think they might go with their picks. They've got the 33rd overall pick, which would be the first pick in the second round. I do believe they have number 39, just 6 picks later. They've got a first round pick in every round after that, and they've got a couple of extras to go with it. They have the Giants' second round pick, which might be number 39. Somebody help me out there. They have a 5th round pick from the Titans. They have a 5th round pick from the Giants. They have the 7th round pick from the Steelers.
Sure.
So they've got draft capital now. I don't see the Carolina Panthers trying to bundle any of those and move up any higher, because what they're going to need is a really deep is a really deep class. The wide receiver class is so deep that and the quarterback class is deep. There's going to be a lot of teams taking quarterbacks in the first round. Carolina is going to have a good wide receiver available to them at 33.
I wouldn't be
get a 1-2 punch at 33, 39.
And I know that a lot of people think they'll go receiver, but I'll say this. I wouldn't even be surprised if Carolina went running back, either at 32 or 39. Chuba Hubbard last year was an absolute disappointment for a $25 million deal. He was pitiful. There was no running game. And the way I look at it is, when you have a quarterback who's young, like Bryce Young, and sometimes has that deer in headlights look, you need a guy, a beast of a running back that he can turn and hand that ball to and take a lot of pressure off the quarterback. It may be a 3rd-day draft pick for a dynamic back, but I don't know if you can wait that late. Like, to me, a running back that's dynamic should be at the top of your priority list if you're Carolina. Chuba Hubbard's not the guy.
Yeah, I mean, they made some moves there to shore up the offensive line. We'll find out just how good those moves might pan out. Still not sold on the moves that they did make, just because I've been burned so many times by this line. And last year they moved these guys around a ton to try to get some sort of continuity in the line. I think there's no way that they go anywhere but wide receiver, especially with number 33. Now, where they might go with 39 sort of just depends on who's available, best available at the time. They have so many needs across the board.
They do.
The Carolina Panthers really are in best available mode. Whoever the best available player is that they like, they have to go and get. They are not drafting to shore up some depth or to find a wide receiver to give some depth on the receiving court. No, they need the best players they can possibly get, no matter, regardless of position.
Regarding the offensive line, they added Hunt and Lewis for a combined $150 million, a huge commitment to protect Bryce Young on the inside. So here's what I think is interesting. 35 of Bryce Young's team record 62 sacks. So that's more than half, right? More than half of his sacks last season came from the guard and center position. Moving Corbett from guard to center is a little bit of a risk, but Dave Canales believes that Corbett will be a good replacement for Bozeman. So Canales is also counting on improvement from Iquanu, who gave up 20 sacks on pass blocks last season, which is not good. So I'll say this to your point, Diesel. It's almost like they really, really need to figure out a way to snag an offensive lineman, maybe on day 2 before day 3 gets there, because on day 1 they're just sitting out, right? They have their feet propped up
Might
on
as well
day
not even
1.
show up.
Sure, there's
Somebody
no point.
will.
You don't even have a draft pick. So it just goes back to me to team building. You have your quarterback, you have what you think is your quarterback. Well, if you have your quarterback, you've got to have an offensive line, and you've got to have a run game, man. Nothing takes pressure off of a quarterback like a run game does. When you have a consistent run game, the quarterback is a lot more at ease. However, you can't run the ball. Maybe it's not all Chuba Hubbard's fault. You can't run the ball if you don't have an offensive line. They give up a lot of sacks last year, so their run game protection was trash. Their pass game protection was trash. So, for those that say, well, they got to focus on the defense, Diesel, I believe that the draft focus is totally offense.
Well, if I'm Bryce Young, I am getting in my agent's ear, and my agent is passing along the news to the Carolina Panthers that if you don't get me an offensive line, I will leave.
Well, there's some good offensive linemen in this year's draft.
You better get me a line that can keep me off my ass 65 times this year. Not all of those sacks were on the line, but most of those sacks.
A lot of them were.
On the line. I mean, Bryce Young had absolutely nothing, nobody protecting up there. So, this is a show me season for Bryce Young. He's got to prove that he actually is the guy when he gets a little bit better of protection. And then for Bryce, the Carolina Panthers got to show him that they are committed to putting a good offensive line in front of him. Otherwise, this dude's going to be out of the league in 5 years.
That would not be good. That would not be good. I can't wait. As an NFL fan, I love the draft. And as you said, Diesel, we'll be live on location for the draft. We invite all of the Tolos. This is, other than the Eagles' bi-weekly appearances, this is our chance for you Tolos to come out and spend some time with us, introduce yourself, and have some fun, man. The draft should be a lot of fun at the end of April, rather. On the other side of the break, Diesel, I'm all for however you make your money, make your money. If it's borderline illegal, make your money, right? I don't have a problem with how people make their money. However, an interesting story. A YouTuber. There's a lot of money in YouTube nowadays. Kids are getting filthy rich off of YouTube. This YouTuber was held for ransom. Would you risk it all to be a YouTuber, even if you were held for ransom? We'll hear about what happened and if this YouTuber was set free. Crazy story. On the other side, he's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryce, and this is the Fan Upstate. The Atlanta Braves home opener is tonight. That's right. If you're in Atlanta, I'm jealous. I'm super jealous because I saw a picture earlier, and I was like, oh, what I'd give to be there on opening day. Opening day at the ballpark for the Atlanta Braves. Are you kidding me? Taking on the Diamondbacks, Spencer Strider on the bump. Oh, it should be a good one tonight.
I've never been to a Major League Baseball opening day. I've only been to a handful of Major League Baseball games.
Have you seen the Braves' new stadium?
I have.
Oh,
I've been to a game
it's
at
great.
Truist. I will tell you this. If anybody is thinking about going to a game this summer, if it's a day game, don't make the mistake of sitting down left field.
Pay for the shade.
Pay for the shade. Well, the crazy thing was the tickets were the same price.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you're on the right field, because the sun sets obviously in the west. The west is essentially directly over the first base line. And that's the side of the stadium that's going to get shaded first. So at the very least, the sun is going to be overhead or behind your head once it past noon. So if it's an afternoon game, it's going to be behind your head. But if you're on down the third base line, it's going to be in your face the entire time. And we made the mistake. We'd never been to a Braves game at this stadium.
Yeah,
we went to a one at the old stadium.
Turner,
yeah. But don't make that mistake.
I can't
Night
wait.
games, you're fine.
Oh, yeah. And this time of year, you're good. This time of year, like today would be a freaking perfect day
Yeah,
for
but
it.
this is like late May,
Yeah.
early July, or early June.
Hot Atlanta.
Brutal hot.
Ooh,
Not
heating
fun.
up. Heating up in hot Atlanta. All right, Diesel, if you were a millionaire, multimillionaire, and all you had to do every day was make YouTube videos, would you consider ever going to Haiti for a YouTube vlog? So here's the story. This gets wild.
I've been a YouTuber, not like that kind of YouTuber.
But
I
not
create YouTube.
Sure. I'm sorry. That's all you do, YouTuber.
Yeah.
An American YouTuber,
Clout chasers.
sure, said he was kidnapped in Haiti on a reporting trip. Good news, he has been freed, but he had to first pay a $50,000 ransom to gang leaders. However, even though he's free, he is still stuck in the country. So the guy's name, Addison Pierre Moloff, who posts adventure and travel videos from dangerous hotspots under his YouTube channel, traveled to Haiti in March to interview Jimmy Barbecue Chorizer. I probably said that wrong. Part of a group of gang leaders who've announced an alliance and pressured ongoing prime minister. So on March 14th, the YouTuber, Mr. Moloff, was kidnapped along with his Haitian fixer and held for more than 2 weeks, according to the Haitian Times. At the time, the U.S. State Department warned against traveling to Haiti. So the YouTuber, who had posted videos about the Mexican drug cartels and Las Vegas tunnel people, who said corrupt policemen allowed him to be kidnapped by 400 Maozu gang. Here's what's interesting. End quote. Or quote, we had a confirmed interview with Barbecue. This was the guy he went to interview, whose name is Barbecue. Barbecue had approved us, and we had safe passage until a group of corrupt security set us up.
Ooh.
So he was set up by corrupt police officers in the country of Haiti, and they set up an ambush to kidnap this American YouTuber. Would it be worth being rich and famous on YouTube to be kidnapped and held hostage for 2 weeks in Haiti?
Number one, this story is the definition of bleep around and find out. Number two, I can't tell if this is the plot to Tropic Thunder or if this is the plot to a Fast and the Furious spinoff. Because, like, we talked about it yesterday or the other day with the football player who got in a car wreck driving fast through downtown Dallas. A whole series of bad decisions were made to get you to this point. A whole series of bad decisions were made. So this guy, number one, became a YouTuber instead of just going out and getting a real job. Number two, he makes his money by going into dangerous places. So he intentionally goes to dangerous places.
On purpose.
On purpose. Number three, he was warned not to go here. Number 4, he put his trust in police in a country that's known to have corrupt police. Like, dude, what do you expect to happen here?
So it's not over yet.
There's like a level of hubris that says, you know what? I'm so-and-so YouTuber. I got this.
It's not
Nobody's
over.
going to mess with me.
It gets better.
Uh-oh.
You ready for this?
Yep.
He's trying to leave the country on Monday, this YouTuber. He gets scammed by a rental car company and does not leave the country, misses his flight, and as of Monday evening, he remained in Haiti while staying where? At the local Haiti police station. Who was the one that scammed him in the first place? The Haitian police.
Yes. I love, like, did you watch the Firefest documentaries when those came out?
I saw them. I haven't watched them, though.
I mean, I love when rich idiots get scammed out of their money.
Looks interesting.
Like, I don't feel bad for them at all. I didn't feel bad for all these rich turds, these kids who grew up with a silver spoon in their mouths, flying to some tropical paradise to go to a pop show. Like, I don't feel bad for those idiots. I don't feel bad for this idiot either.
$50,000.
Like, he's lucky he still has his head.
Sure. No, and I will agree. There's no feeling bad from me either. Now, the fact that he had to pay $50,000, that's kind of funny to me. $50,000 ransom just to get out of Haiti.
Was by chance the gang that kidnapped him Flaming Dragon? We are Flaming Dragon.
So imagine the security guards walking up, Diesel. Security guards come up to you. Hey, man, we're your security. You know, this is our car, right? Well, you get over to the car, and all of a sudden they kick you in the you-know-what, put a bag over your head, and throw you in the trunk. You're kidnapped by Haitian police, Haitian security. So this gets pretty rough for this YouTuber. I hope he made it back okay. I would never wish anything bad on anybody.
You know what he's going to do, though? He's going to use this as clout to say, see, like, things over there really are bad. I told you things were bad. Watch more of my videos. Make sure you like and subscribe.
I can think of a lot more ways to make money rather than going to Haiti to interview drug lords.
Yeah, not good.
That would not be at the top of my list.
Madcraft says social media influencers have ruined our youth.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Because they do. Kids watch it. Kids love this stuff.
And they make so much. And it's YouTube's fault. I mean, they're the ones paying them.
Well,
I mean, he makes money off of the YouTube, right?
YouTube, it's just like with anything. You feel like you have to ramp up and you have to do something crazier or more dangerous or wilder or whatever than the last guy or your last video, or people just won't watch your stuff anymore.
It's pitiful. It's pitiful that we've gotten there.
I don't feel bad for him.
No, I don't feel bad for him at all. But a trip to Haiti would not be to interview drug lords would not be on the top of my list.
It is sad though that we can't get, you know, some of these Caribbean countries right. Because I've spent time in the Caribbean, it's fantastic. I've been to Curacao, it's great. But like, you know, why can't we get Cuba right? It's right there. Like it's right there. How beautiful and how great of a destination would it be if they could get it right? Some of these other islands down there that they just keep having their problems. You go to one side of the Dominican Republic, it's good. The other side, it's not. Like, it's just, I wish we could get it right.
Well, speaking of getting it right, we always get it right here on Wire to Wire. Right, Diesel? We're never wrong.
Yes,
not us.
And as a matter of fact, we are going to go to our good buddy who covers NASCAR for the Charlotte Observer. We're going to get deep into the weeds of what's going on in the 2024 season, about some of the biggest storylines that are happening in NASCAR this year. You're going to hear a replay of our interview from earlier in the show with Shane Connuck from the Charlotte Observer next here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. There are two mics out of utility, so like anything.
Can visit publicfiles.fcc.gov and search for WORDs and WYRDs public files.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Turn on, leave on.
For most people around here, the season begins in earnest tomorrow. But that's right. Terrible weather in Philadelphia. Atlanta will take on the Philadelphia Phillies. Spencer Strider, Zach Wheeler on the bump, finally getting this thing going.
Philadelphia, people say it right.
Or Philadelphia.
Ugh. What good sport team comes out of Philly? Are you kidding
If
me?
only they could make good food, they could be Grilladelphia.
Well, they do have a cheesesteak. You want to get good old cheesesteak?
Well, they cook those on a flat top. That's not a grill. Missing it. Anytime somebody's
You don't think so?
on a flat top, that's a frying pan. That is not a grill.
You're not a fan of the flat top?
No, I didn't say I don't like them. I'm saying
okay.
stop calling it a grill. It's not a grill. It's a frying pan. Like, people are spending all these money on these stones.
You don't like those?
I think they're amazing, but don't call it a grill.
Big freaking frying pan. BFFP.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
Turn on, leave on. Afternoons 3 to 7 on the Fan. Upstate.
Upstate.
WYRD Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WSBC HD3 Greenville. The official sports voice of you, the Upstate Fan. CBS Sports Radio. Always live from the Free Odyssey app. You ready?
Let's go.
It's alive in the West Venezuela. From the fields to the courts, and the gridiron to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk starts this.
Get your thoughts in now. If you have questions about the upcoming race Sunday at Martinsville, let us know your thoughts, questions, concerns, whatever it may be. 71307. Start your text with the word FAN, and away you go. We now bring in Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer to talk about Sunday's race and get us caught up on NASCAR as we are almost 10 games in. Diesel pointed out during the break. Shane, thanks so much for coming on today. Want to start with this. Even though Martinsville is Sunday, I think the most interesting news is what happened with the Denny Hamlin restart. Over the weekend last week, his crew chief has now spoken out on it. And I want to ask you, every time there's drama in NASCAR, does it have to involve Denny Hamlin?
Thank you guys so much for having me. Great to be here. And yes, it really does seem like Denny Hamlin, if something happens, he finds himself at the center of it, even if it's not related to the racetrack, and even if it's related to a middle of the night beef that transpired at about 1 a.m. this morning involving Denny Hamlin. So seems like you're right. Anything involving any kind of controversy often does involve Hamlin. And in the case of the restart, let's go to that about the end of that Richmond race. Denny Hamlin, always strong at Richmond, all those things. But listen, that race, Martin Truex Jr. was dominating. And then toward the end, getting toward an overtime restart, Hamlin was the leader and did kind of get out in front, did seem to jump that restart. But either way, NASCAR reviewed it, and ultimately there's been, obviously, like you said, a lot of controversy, but still, in the end, Hamlin a winner for the second time this year and still chasing that first championship, and clearly, no matter what, one of the strongest drivers in the Cup Series.
Shane, I'm a little bit in the dark here. Could you bring us into this beef? What's going on here with Denny Hamlin?
Yeah. So basically, what went on last night was that Marcus Smith, who is the CEO of Speedway Motorsports, which is a company that manages a lot of racetracks, including North Wilkesboro up in North Carolina. And essentially, and that's Bruton Smith, obviously the Hall of Famer's son. And so it started when they showed a picture on an account of clearly showing sections of a recently repaved track at Sonoma. That's out in California. But the idea was that, okay, we just did this repaving, and then you see the clearly parts of the track coming up in a picture immediately. And Hamlin just put a tweet out there saying, when paving on a budget goes wrong, NWB, meaning North Wilkesboro, will be next. And Smith fired back right away and said, this is a great post from somebody who doesn't know all the information, ignorance on display for the world to see. And then eventually they go back and forth. Hamlin eventually says, we've seen your reconfig, referring to reconfiguration record. And it all ended up, the biggest, punchline, I guess, Denny Hamlin eventually goes, here's your tip. Let someone else run your business before you blow everything your dad gave you, referring to his father, Bruton Smith. And so this morning, Marcus Smith, again, CEO of Speedway Motorsports, deleted all of his replies that were sending social media ablaze at about 1 a.m. today in the NASCAR community. And a lot of the NASCAR community woke up to see that. And then Marcus Smith deleted his replies. And then eventually this morning, he posted to follow up on his previous post. He, didn't want, got first deleted. He's noted even last night, how passionate and how successful and, championship hopeful the driver Denny Hamlin is, and hoping to fix the pavement issues and whatever. So, usual kind of beef back and forth, but that was not what you never know. Sometimes it'll be someone throwing a bumper on the back of a car, and sometimes it'll be, a middle of the night Twitter exchange, but that's what's going on. And yes, a lot of these things involve Denny Hamlin.
So we saw a multimillionaire tuck his tail between his legs. Is that what you're telling me?
What it seems like.
Shane, I want to ask you, will there be a vendetta against Denny Hamlin until he does win it all, until he does win a cup championship? Will the beef then go away?
I think that is a big part of it right now, that he doesn't have a championship. But at the same time, something I've noticed is that Denny Hamlin, as a result of his personality and who he is an incredibly popular and known driver. And I think in a lot of ways is actually more recognizable than so many of the other drivers in the Cup throughout the Cup Series, and really stands out among the top drivers because he's this, and they call him the villain. He just has a role that is so unique. And I feel like, again, the fact that he hasn't won a championship plays into it. But when he does, if he does, could in the next year or two, he's already 43, could get that elusive championship, I think that could really solidify him as an all-time great driver, because then he has 53, at that point, pushing 60 wins. He's been around for as long as any of the top guys have been around, has won as many races, has won at different tracks. And at that point, I think when he wins that championship, he goes from being somebody who's, regarded as a villain, regarded as, oh, maybe there's controversy, to, wow, this is somebody who had such an impact on the sport.
Shane Connuck, he covers NASCAR for the Charlotte Observer, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Shane, I'm going to tell you a little story about myself. I grew up in Hickory, North Carolina, about an hour and a half northwest of Charlotte. I grew up going every single Saturday night to Hickory Motor Speedway. It was called the birthplace of the NASCAR stars. They painted it right there on the wall. And so I grew up going every May and every October, camping out in the infield at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But largely NASCAR as a sport has lost me over the past 20 years of my life. What is NASCAR doing to get guys like me back who maybe, I'm going to tell you, I have a big problem with all the changes that the sport has undergone over the past 20, 25 years or so. Does NASCAR feel like they need to do anything to get guys like me back? Or is it on me? Is this a me problem? Do I have to reinvest my time and interest back into the sport?
It's a really good point you bring up. And it's something that I really personally think a lot about. And just kind of real quick, me personally, I started covering NASCAR in about August for the Charlotte Observer. And I have been an all-around huge sports fan, and I've always known NASCAR generally my whole life, because I've always really made an effort to follow different sports and just know what's going on as a sports fan and sports eventually journalist. And something that I noticed really coming in, really being immersed in this NASCAR community right away so much, and really looking toward the future of the sport, is that the sport really has, like you said, changed tremendously in the last 20 years or so, 20, 25 years. And as we look toward the future of the sport, I do think that there have been a lot of growing pains over the last 20 years or so. And so that being said, there was an era when you had fewer drivers, you had the sport seemed bigger, you had fewer winners, you had more crashes maybe, and now it feels like there's a lot more parity. And I feel like it actually is, as I noticed, being also a fan and a journalist who covers a lot of different sports, that it's actually in a lot of ways mirroring the same trends that we've seen the NBA evolve in. And, the NBA at one point was more that you had fewer teams and more teams would win more.
Let us know.
Even in a time when they're at the gate, no, they're not having any of these problems at all. So they're reporting at this point 68% faster entry.
Look at the Toyotas. But then there are also times when guys like Kyle Larson and William Byron win, and you see those Chevys and how much. But my biggest gut is telling me this in terms of Martinsville. We have not had a Ford win yet this year. Last year and the year before that, Fords with Joey Logano and then Ryan Blaney won the NASCAR Cup Series championships. And it feels like early this year, Blaney was showing incredible speed, but Austin Cindric even showing speed sometimes, Todd Gilliland showing speed sometimes. You wouldn't expect as much, but no Ford has gotten a win or really come incredibly close. That being said, I think it's time that we see that happen, and I think Ryan Blaney has shown so much speed this year, and it won't be like his last win at Martinsville at all, but I think that the way that we saw Kyle Larson win at Las Vegas again after he won that playoff race, I think we're going to see Denny Hamlin get another, I think we're going to see Ryan Blaney get another win at Martinsville.
Go find it and follow him at Shane_Connuck, Connuck on Twitter. Shane, last question here for you from me. For a guy like me, who if I turn a NASCAR race on this weekend for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm kind of watching it from a 10,000-foot view. I need specific things to focus on from race to race. Can you give me one or two kind of interesting, nuanced storylines that I need to be watching for this weekend at Martinsville, and then, of course, next week at Texas?
I would say this weekend at Martinsville, you're going to want to be watching for how much passing goes on and really seeing the kind of racing that this could present. Because at Richmond and with some of these short track races that we're seeing, it's been hard for guys to even really pass each other. And then when guys become to earn dominant wins, it's not even like there is dominance just because they get in the right spot. I think that this Martinsville race, it'll be good to see if this could be a real good, just short track race. And then the following week at Texas, like I said, Ford has not gotten a win yet this year. And at this point, we're starting to move past that just beginning of the season. Every year it feels like, okay, Chevys win the most races, Toyotas seem fast a lot, and then Ford, they win the championship. So they're the best. And so I think that at this point, we're starting to really get to a point that, I don't think there's any concern anywhere, but considering how much speed that some Toyotas have had, I think that there is some room to be made up there for Ford at a certain point. Tracks like Martinsville and Texas, I think that could be where we end up seeing it.
Shane, great stuff, man. We really appreciate you taking time to jump on, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you guys so much. Really great to join you guys, and let's hope we have some great racing this weekend at Martinsville. Thank you guys.
Tontamente. Knock that thing out and get out of here today. Two more.
All our Twitters and everything got disconnected, and there is one person in here watching.
Oh well.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Finding what you love has never been easier. Just download the app. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Staples print big sale.
Oh, okay. What do we got next?
Game day, baby. Carolina, NC State. Me and you pick. We'll make a little score prediction.
Get on that.
We'll give a little Iowa. We haven't talked about Iowa either. Iowa, UConn tonight.
I'll have to find something that gives us some comparison and breakdown because I
don't
have
know.
not written much about that.
No, I haven't either. It's okay. We'll
BS.
BS. That's the best way, man.
Cravings, beat savings. Order in the app for it. Bojangles. It's bow time.
Here we go.
Shake your neck with Diesel and Cold Racing on.
It is WIRE. The Lady Gamecocks having a chance to not only punch their ticket to the Final Four, but this time they're punching their ticket to the national championship game. We'll also touch on Iowa-UConn because that game is also tonight. Should be two really good games tonight. However, let's start with the Gamecocks. 11.5 points. Not talking about winning the game or losing the game, Diesel. If me and you had to make a bet right now, let's get some money out of our wallets, scrounge up our coins.
Wait, you have money in your wallet?
No. Let's ask the question. 11.5 points for South Carolina in a Final Four game.
Feels like a lot.
Does it? Because to me, it does.
It feels like a lot considering how NC State is playing, very consistently scoring in, the mid 70s. South Carolina is holding teams down score wise, but they're not winning games running away.
Not lately.
And that's the thing that scares me. South Carolina spent a majority of the season winning games running away, but they've let 2 teams in a row come back on them.
They have. So the Wolfpack are 31-6. They finished second in the ACC. 13-5 conference record. They reached the Final Four with a 76-66 win over top-seeded Texas in the Elite Eight. Very impressive. The Gamecocks, on the other hand, 36-0, who are looking to win their second national championship in the last 3 years, advanced by knocking off third-seed Oregon State 70-58 on Sunday. Some numbers for you, other than the spread being minus 11.5, Diesel. South Carolina versus NC State over-under 139.5. So you take that and divide it by 2 is the way I always do this. It never works, so don't take my advice. But basically what you're looking at is Vegas thinks that both teams will score somewhere around 70. So if it goes over 139.5, obviously the over will hit. I don't know that I see a lot of points being scored tonight. Even though South Carolina's been streaky, you got to think that with Cardoso down in the paint and the way that their guards attack defensively, they want to hold this game to as low scoring as a basketball game as possible.
Right. The way I look at it is I always take the total, divide it by 2, and then add the difference, add half of the spread to either side of that number.
Sure.
So 139, let's call it 140. That's 70. 70 square in the middle, and it's an 11.5 point spread. So they're assuming, or they're guessing, predicting that the score will be somewhere around 75-64,
sure,
or 76-65.
And you know what? I could see that, but I feel like South Carolina's at their best when they just clamp the other team early. Like when I've watched South Carolina this year, I can think of games against UConn a couple of months ago where South Carolina gets hot early, Diesel, and Fool Wiley and Pow, man, they're just rocking and rolling, passing the ball, getting assists, getting easy layups, shooting the mid-range game, which, by the way, is still alive in the in women's college basketball. Mid-range games still exist. I love that.
I'm glad the analytics haven't taken that out of the game.
Sure. But you know what? I feel like they're at their best when they can just choke their opponent out early. So I'll be very interested to see tonight how South Carolina comes out to start the game. I'm not saying they have to go on a 12-2 run or anything like that. The Wolfpack are a good team, though. They're 9-3 against AP-ranked teams this season. South Carolina undefeated when playing on neutral courts this season. I do think if I had to bet, as I said in the very first segment of the program, Diesel, I believe South Carolina tonight turns it on. We're literally on our TV in the studio. We have live coverage of the both teams warming up. I think tonight South Carolina turns it on, and I think they cover 11.5. I see South Carolina winning somewhere in the score of 75-60, 75-61, something like that.
Okay, so you got them basically where Vegas thinks what South Carolina is going to score, their defense clamping down. I think after 2 times back-to-back games where South Carolina gave up big leads, I hope, my sincere hope is that Dawn Staley has imparted in her team just how close they've come to losing in this tournament, just how close they've come to letting a perfect season to this point get away from them.
Well, we talked about this a few days ago. You and I did. A lot of times in sports, we hear like coaches and fans say, well, that loss was good for us. It was really good that we lost because we needed that loss to refocus and remind ourselves that we are beatable, right? Does it scare you, though, as a South Carolina fan? Let us know on the stream or on the text line 71307. Start your text with the keyword fan. Does it worry you that this team doesn't have a loss? Because you do play different when you're undefeated. Like, I hope South Carolina, I don't want to speak this into existence, Diesel, but I hope that South Carolina doesn't feel pressure. I hope they don't feel the pressure of being undefeated. I hope they don't play tight. I hope they come out and play loose with nothing to lose, because I think that South Carolina is capable of winning it all. However, you talk about sports having a lot to do with who wins and who loses, having a lot to do with the mental side of the game. If this team, for whatever reason, and I don't think they will, if this team, for whatever reason, Diesel, does play tight, if they do feel the pressure, if they do get into a close game with NC State for a third straight close game, how do they respond? Because they know you can't lose now. You lose now, and I don't want to say it feels like a bust of a season, but you have national title expectations when you run the table and go undefeated.
Well, a prime example of the loss, being good for you is that UConn men's team lost to Seton Hall 75-60. They got beat by 15.
Who won the NIT?
Who just won the NIT over Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Indiana State, which that was a wild finish.
It was.
To that game. They had chances. Indiana State had chances. I was watching the game while I was at the gym, and Seton Hall would get up to 9-10 point leads, and then Indiana State would come charging back.
Sure.
And it came all the way down to the very last possession. Just a wild series if you haven't seen it yet. But they lost to Seton Hall back on December 20th, and then have just gone on an absolute tear ever since. They've won 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 26 games straight. 26 games straight.
Wow.
Since December. And they've just been lights out in most of those games. So that's proof right there that a good team can take a loss and it'll really galvanize them. I mean, we saw it 2 games ago for South Carolina in that post-game press conference, where even after a close win against Indiana, the players were still like loose and joking around.
Sure.
Like, hey, nobody can beat us. Nobody can shoot with us. Meanwhile, Don Staley's over there staring at like, seriously, you gave up a 17-point lead. I don't think you have any room. So, I have complete faith that Don Staley got in their ears.
I do too.
And screamed at them after that. But it didn't seem to stick, because it almost happened again against Oregon State the next night.
So if you ask yourself, NC State, a team that most people around here on the women's side are pretty unfamiliar with. They don't have the TJ Burns that we all know like the men's team does. If you ask yourself why NC State could cover, well, 5 Wolfpack players are averaging 10 or more points per game. So 5 of their starters averaging 10 plus per game, led by junior guard Isaiah James. Isaiah had 27 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists in the win over Texas in the Elite 8. She also had an impressive outing in the 77-67 Sweet 16 win over Stanford on March 29th. In that game, in a women's college basketball game, she scored 29 points. That's a lot of points for a women's college basketball player. While adding 5 assists, 3 rebounds, she has started all 37 games for NC State this season. She's averaging 16.7 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 3 assists and 1 steal in 31 minutes. Junior guard Sanaya Rivers has also reached double-digit scoring in each of the last 4 games. In the win over Texas, she poured in 11 points while adding 11 assists, 5 rebounds, and 2 blocks. She's the former Gamecock. Remember, she played at South Carolina, but her last 2 years were at NC State. And she had 13 points and 7 rebounds against Stanford in the Sweet 16, 34 games, all starts. She averages 12.7 points per game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. So when you look at NC State, their starting 5 is very, very good. Their starting 5 is solid. Their starting 5, they're consistent when it comes to scoring, Diesel. However, However, South Carolina might be the deepest team left in the tournament. And when you're playing an entire game, I don't know that this is the team you want to run up against if you're NC State. That will be for me what could be the difference tonight. Now, Diesel on the other side, the other game tonight, Iowa, UConn. Would it be a disappointment for women's basketball if Caitlin Clark and Iowa lost tonight?
Yes. The game drastically needs Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
In the national
I agree.
championship game.
I agree. But let's be real for a minute. UConn is not a bad team. I don't know if this is a news flash, but when you make the Final Four, you're a pretty dang good team. And UConn, a pretty good team, running up against Caitlin Clark and Iowa. The problem is Caitlin Clark has played a lot of pretty good teams this year, right? She's played a lot of good teams, good coaches, but LSU did not even have an answer for Caitlin Clark.
Well, yeah, maybe the answer is going to be Paige Buchers. I mean, Paige Buchers and Caitlin Clark. This is that long, extended. We've had our eye on each other for a long time and just haven't matched up on the court. Again, they played each other once before.
Sure,
as freshmen. This was a while ago. Paige Buchers is absolutely lights out as well. So this is going to be interesting to see. The personal rivalry between them won't have the heat that Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese had. They don't have, there's no video of Paige Buchers doing the can't see me or showing off the ring or whatever, the pointing to the ring that Angel Reese did last year. But I'm gonna tell you, this is going to be a wild night to watch. Caitlin Clark said that she was watching some old footage of that game and that they both looked really, really young. Maybe there's remember when that Michael Jordan documentary came out and he said, I would find literally anything to use as fuel.
Sure.
Like anything to use as fuel. Maybe Caitlin is going back into that game, into that footage and finding something that is going to fuel her tonight.
I think it could. I'm trying to find the audio. I don't have it yet, but I saw earlier, Diesel, where, here it is. All right. Molly Kieram.
Yep.
Who is the host, if you will, one of the hosts on First Take. This video, you're not going to, have you heard it yet, by the way?
I have not.
So Molly Kieram, I don't know if you know this, is a UConn grad. She's a big UConn supporter. She loves her UConn Huskies. Hear what Molly Kieram had to say when it comes to Caitlin Clark. This, Diesel, blew my mind when she's talking about Caitlin Clark. I'm pulling up the audio right now. But Molly Kieram, as you'll hopefully hear in a second, says this on national TV. All I got to say is she's lucky that this UConn team isn't healthy. If Paige Buchers didn't miss basically 2 seasons, I don't know if we'd even be talking about Caitlin Clark.
Wow.
Says Molly Kieram. I don't know if anything could be more.
All I gotta say is
Here you go. Here's the audio. This is fantastic.
All I gotta say is she's lucky this UConn team isn't healthy, and that's a true statement.
That's wrong, Molly.
Monica,
That's wrong, Molly. Molly,
like
it's
5
excuses.
top players,
It's
am I
excuses,
right?
Molly. It's
Major
excuses.
injury.
You would not be saying that if it wasn't UConn.
Major stars not playing.
Listen, I'm among them this year. That I was like, oh, UConn not the UConn of old, and here they are. So,
but I'm just saying, she wouldn't be bringing that up if that's what's unfair about her. Molly would not be bringing that up if it were not UConn.
Dog will holler.
You understand? Hold on. Is Paige Beckers big time?
Big
She's
time.
spectacular, right?
You know what?
Excuse
We gotta
me.
go.
It's her against Caitlin Clark.
Steve.
Paige Buchers wouldn't be, if she wouldn't have missed the last 2 seasons, basically, we wouldn't even be talking about Caitlin Clark.
This sounds like some ESPN clickbait, right?
That's absurd.
Let's just say something absurd to get people talking. I mean, Caitlin Clark is great. I mean, the game would be better for it if Paige hadn't been injured for 2 seasons.
Sure.
The game would be, imagine having another star.
But let's be honest.
Another marketable star in this game.
The game's never seen anything like Caitlin Clark.
No.
Ever. And to say something
if Paige
ridiculous.
Buchers is up in stores lighting it up, it doesn't change the fact that Caitlin Clark is in Iowa lighting it up.
Sure. But you're right. Most likely clickbait. Final segment of the show coming your way. Diesel will have the daily wires.
Yeah.
We haven't touched on those yet. And we also are going to tell you where you can find exclusive coverage of the Final Four on the men's side as well as the national championship. When we come back, he's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is the Fan Upstate.
Show 10 in the books.
What?
Partner. It's unbelievable.
10?
We're already 10 shows in.
I'm done.
It's been a blast. Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, the newest sports talk show in the upstate of South Carolina. However you listen to the show, we greatly appreciate it. If you listen to us live, awesome. If you listen to us after the fact on some form of a podcast, that's great. However you listen, we're just glad that you're here. We got a lot to get to before the show is over. A lot of daily wires that we haven't really even had a chance to touch on. Some great audio that you guys haven't heard yet. And of course, the Carolina Panthers made a good move, an actual good move when it comes to personnel. We'll get to that as well before the show is over. But let's get to these daily wires here, Cole.
Let's go.
Number one, South Carolina has now dropped 3 of their last 4 games in baseball. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to get brutal tough for South Carolina over the next couple of games, over the next couple of weeks, man. They are entering a stretch of this schedule that could really hurt them for the rest of the season. So they lost 2 out of 3 to Alabama this past weekend. Alabama's a really good baseball team. They have just lost another one earlier this week to Georgia Southern at home.
Sure.
Lost that game, got blanked 8-0 at home. Their first meeting with the Eagles since 2011. On paper, they didn't really have a bad game pitching. Georgia Southern struck out 17 Eagles, but the problem is they gave up 3 home runs. One of them was a grand slam. You are unlikely to be successful if you give up that many hits, especially big-time home runs. But coming up next for the currently set to be refreshed beginning of next week, the number 22 South Carolina Gamecocks, they're going to host number 3 Texas A&M in a 3-game series this weekend. It's going to be tough to win 3 in a row or to sweep or take 2 out of 3 against Texas A&M. That's going to be tough.
I'll say this regarding South Carolina. And I really, really hoped I never got to this point, but I'm glad you brought that up, Diesel, because we had someone on the stream the other day say that he was over Mark Kingston, tired of Mark Kingston. And
then he sweeps Vandy.
Sure.
And you feel good about Mark Kingston again.
You do, but the proof is in the pudding. And to me, it looks as if Mark Kingston is Chad Holbrook 2.0. And I hate to be Debbie Downer when it comes to South Carolina baseball, but when you have to follow in the footsteps of Ray Tanner, Chad Holbrook never was going to be successful at South Carolina. You brought in a guy like Mark Kingston outside of the program to revitalize the program. He hasn't done a bad job, but what South Carolina Gamecock baseball was used to was winning in late in the season, right? Winning when it mattered, winning in May, winning in June, winning in Omaha, being in Omaha. That's what Ray Tanner did for this program. Chad Holbrook failed to do that. Mark Kingston, the way it looks, is failing to do that. Now, I'll say this. To be fair, the SEC is loaded. As you said, they have A&M, who's, third in the country this weekend?
Yep.
Doesn't make it any better. However, the biggest difference I see in South Carolina baseball now compared to South Carolina baseball under Ray Tanner, and I know people say, quit going back to Ray Tanner. You don't compare him to Ray Tanner. Well, you do. You have to.
Why not?
The biggest difference is South Carolina, since Ray Tanner's left, under the Holbrook and Kingston era, under the Holbrook and Kingston era, South Carolina baseball has failed to recruit heroes. When they played in Omaha, when Ray Tanner had his team in Omaha, and they won back-to-back national championships, which seems like a long time ago now because of where the program is now, just kind of mediocre. Those guys had heroes on their team. They had guys who were going to win the game when it mattered. Mark Kingston, I think he's a good coach. I'm not saying that it's time to start, throwing up the panic sign and flashing the light if you're South Carolina baseball. But Mark Kingston, Chad Holbrook, both have failed to bring in top recruits that really change this program. And because of that, it worries me with the way that this SEC schedule is heading. As you said, Diesel, it's going to be brutal. It is tough.
Yeah, you've lost 3 out of 4. Then your next 7 games, you got a three-game stretch at home against Texas A&M, a midweek game against number 10 North Carolina, and then a 3-game road stretch at number 6 Florida.
Yeah.
So the next 7 games are not getting any easier for the South Carolina Gamecocks. The Braves have their home opener in just 40 minutes away from the Atlanta Braves taking the field at Truist Park in Atlanta. Some fantastic audio here. Cole, I want to play this. Here's if you live in Georgia, it may behoove you to stop on the side of the road and pick through the weeds because Shaq in an interview here says that, well, he chucked out something very important in 1996. And to his knowledge, it's never been found.
Olympic Games, 96. I played throughout, help them come back, win games. In the gold medal game, Lenny Wilkins says, hey, this is probably Dave Robinson's last game, so he's going to get more minutes. I said, cool, I wasn't playing, but he didn't play me at all till like the last 2 minutes.
Damn, you got put in.
Yes, so I got put in the last 2 minutes. I was so off after the ceremony, I drove home in my uniform, and I threw the medal out the window.
Oh, you're say
75.
you don't. You still have the gold medal, right?
No, I threw it away on the highway. I really did.
Very different people.
No, I was so mad.
That gold medal would be
No, I threw it away.
in a very
It
safe
was
place
me,
in my house.
Kenny, and Uncle Jerome. We was in the car. We went to the hotel. I'd go to him, get my. I still have my uniform on, and we driving. And by the time I hit,
You still have the uniform at least.
It's somewhere around there.
So you're driving from where to where?
Atlanta to Orlando.
And on the road, somewhere on the highway,
Like this.
there's an Olympic gold medal.
Yes, I just do like this. And do
Has it been found?
No.
I don't love that for you.
I was
Do you
so
regret
mad.
that?
No, I don't.
You're decisive.
Because one, I should have made Dream Team 1.
92.
I was about that.
Christian Leitner.
So I made the Dream Team 2, but that was the World
You're
Games.
saying you ought to have made the 92 team.
Yes.
Which is probably, as history would suggest, probably should be the case.
But we didn't make the 92 team. They wanted to appease me and put me on the 94 team, the World Games, and we won that. Then they put me on the Dream Team 3.
So that is so
I-75.
fascinating, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
When you've got that many trophies, that many medals, that many titles, that much money, it
doesn't matter.
It's not about the money. It's not about the nostalgia. It's not about the fact that this is a chunk of gold, the size of a hubcap. To him, it's the principle of the thing. And we got Madcraft saying, man, I was really hoping this was the Mets audio again. Madcraft, aren't you fascinated by this audio of Shaq saying he threw his Olympic gold medal out the window of his car because he was so mad that he only played in the final 2 minutes of the championship game in the 96 Olympics? Like, that is fascinating to me. And here you go, man. Here's the audio that you want. Here's the audio, Cole, that you brought to the show earlier. Here's Mets play-by-play guy just a couple of games into the season. You said, 6 games into the season?
Yeah, that's right.
And just totally bagging on his franchise hard.
Nobody in the ballpark. 1-5. Hitless through 7. Feels like rock bottom.
One more time.
Nobody in the ballpark. 1-5. Hitless through 7. Feels like rock bottom.
That's so great. That is so fantastic.
Oh my God. The sack on this dude to say that.
So that
must
was
be a wheelbarrow.
You're right. I allowed you to pick which audio clip of 5-1 for best audio we heard this week. That and the Kamala Harris audio was at the top for you, which I agree with you. Those two were the absolute best. But the Shaq audio, going back to that, like for a normal person to think about what he threw out the window is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling for Shaq. But again, as you said, to him, it's like me and you throwing away a $1 bill,
So I just Googled this. Don't know how true this is.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Just first result on a Google. I Googled, what is an Olympic gold medal worth?
Ooh.
On the open market, because they do come up for sale every now and again. They're typically worth between $20,000 and $50,000.
So he threw away 50 G's.
Yeah. Wow. And it's Shaq's gold medal. Like, that's one of the ones, like, if it's the brakeman on a bobsled team's gold medal, it's unlikely to be worth a lot of money. But
Right.
this is Shaq's gold medal.
Probably worth more than 50 G's when you think about it.
Yeah.
Hey, we did have some breaking news that just came in locally. John Rothstein, college basketball, CBS Sports, host of College Hoops Today. On a local note, he did tweet out 12 minutes ago that USC Upstate, as you know, we said on the program, Dave Dickerson left to join Ohio State, where he formerly was. USC Upstate will hire Marty Richter as its next basketball coach. Richter's a name that we're not really familiar with, but we do know that he was on staff at Drake last season. Here's your trivia. Here is everyone's trivia. Where is Drake located? Drake University. Does anyone know? Diesel, do you? I'm looking it up because I don't know.
I was asked this question. We did the trivia game with the tournament teams a few weeks back, and I've already forgotten. But I think Drake is in like Pennsylvania.
It's in Iowa.
It's in Iowa. Not even close. Not even close.
USC Upstate and Spartanburg has their next basketball coach, and it is Marty Richter. He will replace Dave Dickerson, as Dave Dickerson is now a Buckeye. Richter again. Creighton?
I know where Creighton is.
I don't know. I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like that.
You would never guess of like where.
Let me guess.
Consistently makes the NCAA tournament, makes deep runs, where they're from. Just give me a state.
I'm going to guess Creighton is in Delaware.
Not even close. It is in a flyover state. A flyover state. So middle America.
Kansas.
Nope. Nebraska.
Oh.
Omaha, Nebraska.
That was going to be my fifth guess.
No, it wasn't. It was going to be your 50th.
Oh, Nebraska.
Yeah.
I suck at that.
So we got a couple minutes here left to go in the show. Just about 2 minutes left. I want to let you know that the Carolina Panthers have made a really fantastic move this offseason. They have extended Derek Brown. Derek Brown received a multi-year, you said it was 4 years, $96 million extension. Congratulations to Derek Brown and his family. He was absolutely fantastic in 2023, made his first ever Pro Bowl, had 103 tackles, set a league record for tackles for a defensive lineman in a single season. Previous record belonged to Clemson's Christian Wilkins, who had 98 for Miami in 2022. So obviously it shows the way that the defensive linemen have really stepped up in making tackles. Derek Brown was entering the final year of his rookie deal. Now that Brian Burns is no more in Carolina, he was clearly the best defensive player that the Panthers had. You have to pay that guy. You have to make it worth his while. And he's an absolute Iron Man out there. 89% of defensive snaps for Carolina in 2023. He played. His coaches absolutely love his motor and his effort. So congratulations to Derek Brown getting that bag. 96 mil, baby.
Maybe kids need to start growing up and want to be interior defensive linemen now. Hey, big kids, be a lineman.
Probably tough on your knees and your plus like if you're just not built to be 6'7", 280 pounds plus, you're unlikely to ever be successful as an interior lineman.
So what you're telling me is, as a white guy who's 5'9",
okay, I was going to say,
and 200 and 210 pounds, you don't think I can be successful as an interior lineman in the NFL?
No.
Diesel.
You could maybe be okay as a running back, little guy,
in the little league.
Get through the holes. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, those are some good daily wires. I'm excited. Just 7 minutes from right now. 7 minutes from right now, South Carolina and Iowa. Diesel, it's been a heck of a week. Let's do it again next week, man.
Looking forward to it.
I cannot wait. More Wire to Wire every day on your radio. 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, and anywhere in the world on the free Odyssey app.
Go download those podcasts. Madcraft, thank you for being here for the entire show. And how about that? 110 people in the stream at the end of the show. We absolutely love that. Thank you guys. Really, really do. Again, Mad, JD, Dan B was in here earlier. The fact that you guys have remained just loyal and here each and every day, honestly, it means so much to us. Even though Madcraft, you only came out the one time for the Panthers show. I'm not going to let you forget about that. No, this is great. The fact that you guys have really supported the show so much in its infancy, we appreciate it. Keep spreading the word, keep spreading the gospel, and we'll be back on Monday. I know Cole is going to be at Clemson's spring game tomorrow, so he's going to have a report for you on that, what he sees. So that's going to be exciting stuff. We'll see you guys on Monday right here on the stream.